Hey, everybody. We are officially live back with the Blue Talks Amplify Your Message. I'm Corey Poirier, the founder of Blue Talks. I don't usually do this, but I'm going to say my intention for today is for us to have an absolutely rocking time where we enlighten people about the power of influence, about the power of podcasting, power of speaking, power of writing, and then also about other topics that, the Blue Talks seems to end up covering anyway in the process. My co-host here with me is Kelly Phalora. Kelly, I'll allow you to, of course, tell everybody quickly about yourself and some introductions, and then we'll jump right into the show.
Sure. So, I got burnt as a 2-year-old, and as a result, I became a speaker and a best-selling author, and now I coach people to write their books and become best-selling books. So it's so cool that this is where my journey has taken me, and I'm so honored to be able to work with Corey. And let's just get this message out there that we all have a message, and it's all about amplifying that message and making a big impact in the world. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, and I'm so stoked to have you here. And I will say, all my housekeeping has been lately is simply go to bluetalks.com if you want to know more about Blue Talks, if you want to know how to get in a future Blue Talks book, or even be a part of a future Blue Talks event like this. Kelly's showing the book right now. So really, like I say, all things Blue Talks you can find at bluetalks.com. And then the only other thing I want to mention, which I try to mention every time, is we'd love it if you share this, whether it's on your page. I mean, you literally can just go share and then post it to your page, or share it with somebody you know who needs to hear this, because again, you never know who needs to hear this. I found that I posted something and had somebody come privately and say, I need to hear this today. And in fact, I posted something and publicly somebody just said, I need to hear this. So for instance, I just posted today this little thing. I'll just say before we jump right in about, I don't know if you saw this, Kelly, but I posted kind of a thing about the fact that it doesn't matter where you begin. And I commented about the fact that the band Kiss almost got dropped from the record label for poor album sales, and I think they're over 100 million albums sold now. Seinfeld, a lot of people know, barely made it past the pilot episode, and Michael Jordan didn't make his high school varsity basketball team because they wanted a taller player. These, and I could go on and list hundreds of examples of people that maybe didn't start where they'd like, but they ultimately finished off impacting a lot of lives because they chose where they wanted to go next. They decided it wasn't going to define them. And I put that post out, and the second person that commented, which again, because it's public, I don't mind saying, is Stephanie Hassine. And Stephanie said, thank you. I so needed to hear this right now. So you never know what a post or a share is going to do for somebody else. So that's my little make the case for why you should share this if you can.
I love that, because, one of the reasons that I get people stopping is because they think they're too old to start. And so, I still remember when I decided to leave my marriage and become a speaker, I was like 44 years old. And, it's like, it's never too late. It's never too late. Look at Colonel Sanders and Louise Hay. Louise Hay started Hay House when she was like 60 years old or something like that, And so it's never too late to start.
Absolutely. And, this is a good segue for our first guest today, because he's had the opportunity, like me, to interview Jack Canfield. I think he's also had the opportunity to interview him multiple times. And Jack Canfield's a great example, I believe. And I might have the year roughly wrong, like the age roughly wrong, but I don't even think I do. But I think it was 49 Jack was and 48 Mark was, or vice versa, when they launched Chicken Soup for the Soul, which now I would say arguably, you might not even have to argue this, but arguably the best-selling nonfiction, short story, inspirational series books of all time. I think there are like 600 or 700 million copies sold. And so they started at almost 50 years of age, launched that book series. So you're never too old. It's never too late. So I love that, Kelly. So having said that, let's jump right in and bring our first guest on. JV Crum III has one of my favorite names of all podcasters of all time. JV, so super cool to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory, JV, before we dive right in?
Yeah, well, Jack's got nothing on me. And by the way, I've had both Jack and Mark Victor Hansen. You've probably had Mark as well. He's a great guest. My entrepreneurial career began at 4 in this little country town of 200 to 300 people when I had already learned at that age the strategy. I was an only child to get what I wanted. We were very poor. So I knew I needed to go for that one thing, right? So I would just go, Mommy, Daddy, I want. And that's all I would talk about for like a month before my birthday or a month before Christmas. I went on a PR campaign. So I wanted a pup tent. So I got a pup tent. And my grandmother lived with us, and we lived on an acre, and we had a tangerine tree. Folks, if you don't know what that is, it's like an orange. And so we saved up egg cartons because we didn't have enough money to buy containers. And one day my grandmother and I spent the whole day, I was 4 years old, squeezing the tangerine juice into these 12 little compartments of an egg carton. And then I set up my pup tent where the high school kids got off the bus because I had figured out they had jobs. And I knew if they had jobs, they had money. And at that time, Lucy in the comic Peanuts was charging a nickel for psychiatric help. And I said, no, I'm charging a dime for my tangerine juice. And I sold my tangerine juice for a dime in these egg cartons, which when I look back, I'm going, I know they all threw it away, but they were very nice. And all these kids bought it. And that started my entrepreneurial career. So it was pretty humble starting place to begin with.
So age meant nothing to you. You started young.
I started at 4, and then there was a magazine. Boy, this is going to date me. I was in Cub Scouts. I was in Boy Scouts, did a lot of camping. And there was a magazine called Boy's Life. And you could order candles or cards. I ordered them both and sell them they'd send them on consignment, because this is a different value period. And you sell them for $1.25, and I got to keep 75 cents, and I had to send them 50 cents, right? And I went around this was a place, we were on a beautiful lake, 4 by 5 miles, Lake Weir, and a lot of women whose husband had died moved down from the north because the south was a lot cheaper than the north. And they lived in this pristine town for nothing. And I would go knock on their doors, and I would sell them candles, and I would sell them the cards. And then my father had 100 acres and farmed, and he did peanuts in the summer. So when I was 7, my father would boil the peanuts with me, and then I'd put them in bags. And I was kind of fixated on this dime thing, and I would go around and sell all over town. Downtown was like 3 blocks long. And everybody's house, I'd knock on the door selling my peanuts, and then at 9, I remember saying, Daddy, can I mow the lawn? Can I mow the lawn? Boy, what a fool I was. So yes, the first time I mowed it, that was the last time he mowed it. And then because we were poor, this dime thing, I got a dime allowance for all this long list of stuff I had to do. So I quickly figured out I was in the position of indentured servitude. I needed a house to live in and food, and therefore I couldn't move out. And I had to do all these chores and get paid nothing. So then I figured out the neighbors would pay me $1 to $5 to mow their lawns. So I became the kid that knocked on every door and mowed every lawn. And what's interesting about this, Corey, is I was the only kid in town doing this. I had no competition. Whatever I wanted to sell, nobody else was selling anything. And I just went and sold my way through growing up, always looking for a way to make money.
Wow, I love it. Well, I want to talk obviously about your podcast where you spend a lot of your time, your coaching.
Yeah.
Kelly, I'd love to let you jump in as well if you have any questions before we move off of JV's young
peanut farming background, right?
Yeah, peanut farming background.
Well, JV, I love that you started at 4 because my son, he started at 6 years old when he wanted to make some money, and so he could go to the candy store. And so he got a big jug of iced tea and some cups, and he went onto the beach because we were living at the lake at the time. And, he made himself something like $60.
Wow. Congratulations.
Selling iced tea.
I think that's fantastic. Well, and but I decided at 5 I was going to grow up and be a millionaire because I had already decided this life was not for me, and I remember saying to myself, my parents are smart. I don't know what's wrong with them. But it's interesting. As a little kid, I called it a trick. Now I would call it a strategy. And by the way, people will pay you a lot more money if you're selling strategies than tricks. right? So I said, there's got to be a trick to this, because I'd already figured out that I think anybody can make money. I don't know why my parents are broke all the time. Now I do, because part of my work I do is mindset work with people, because if you want to go from wherever you are to that first million, I love that group, or you want to go to your 10th million, or you're an 8-figure and you want to add 10 million, you've got to shift your perception of who you are and what reality is, or you're not going to get there. So we're all in the same boat. It's just where we are on the stream that matters, but we're all playing the same game. And that's what I figured out very early on, that my parents just somehow don't know the trick, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to live like this. And at 25, I'd become a millionaire and had a 4-story home on the water with a Mercedes, and all of that, collected art, did everything. But it was because I shifted what I thought was possible.
I love that. And I guess the follow-up to that then, JV, because this is something I see a lot, is people go after what you just said, that, great American life story, if you will, and then realize it wasn't what they were looking for. So I'm curious what.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me. 3 months into this journey, I got the home and everything when I was 25. Then I turned 26. So I was actually 26. And 3 months in, I was standing in my living room looking, and every time I describe this, I'm there again, looking at the palms in my front lawn, because it's Florida, looking at the bay with the sailing yachts out on the bay. And I said to myself, something's wrong with this picture. And then I remember distinctly saying, I don't even like myself, which was very true. And I'm horrible at relationships. Just ask anyone I was in a relationship with. I was not good at any of this stuff. All I figured out was how to make some money. And that sent me off on a journey to do Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, sweat lodges, spiritual retreats. I said something just really important piece to this picture. And of course, what I discovered was I wasn't living with any purpose, with any meaning. And so I sold the companies because I was miserable but had money. And I went off and I lived in a Buddhist monastery. I lived at Esalen, which is a personal human potential retreat center in Big Sur, California. And then I moved to Boulder, which I called a big Buddhist monastery retreat center. And I would go out camping on my own 2 to 3 weeks at a time, literally what I called asking the universe and going, okay, I've got graduate degrees in 3 areas. I've made money. I have skills, but I want to make a difference in the world. Because I'd figured out that was the deal. That was the way to feel fulfilled, that it wasn't actually about the money. So what am I supposed to do? And that period lasted almost 3 years, which was very frustrating for me. But now I understand so much more about the process. So I understand the universe was going to tell me when I was ready, when they were, whatever is ready, not when I was asking. So I went over to Lake Tahoe for 6 months to ski. And one weekend I went over to San Francisco, which is a 3.5-hour freeway drive. So it's not really that bad. You just get on the freeway and drive. And I was walking around San Francisco and I saw this, there's all these magazines that in any city are given out, and they're all in racks. And there was this one for a green festival, which I had no idea what that was at the time. And now I'm a big sustainability activist. But, at that time, I didn't know what it was, but it attracted me. I put it in my SUV. I went back. The place that I'd rented had a hot tub because I'm a really hot tub kind of guy. I got in the hot tub and I'm flipping through this magazine, and my intuition works very visually. So I actually see things in my forehead. I've made like 100,000 in a day in the market, just knowing what to buy and where prices were going to change. And so in my forehead comes, I look down, I see the word conscious, and in my forehead comes conscious millionaire. I get a tingling in my spine, and I just knew, oh my gosh, this is it. And so I stayed in the hot tub for another 40 minutes because I also know how the universe works, that I knew that consciousmillionaire.com would be waiting for me. I didn't have to jump out of, and I was in reveille, and my joke is when they do the movie, they've got to add a bottle of Cabernet because that's the only thing that was missing. I actually didn't have a glass of Cabernet, but if they ever do the movie, I want them to have Cabernet because it'll just make it seem more Hollywoodish. And I got out, and on the way to my computer, I remember saying to myself, I finally have my assignment. I got that this was an assignment. And I also got that I had a choice. I could say, yeah, I want the assignment. You know, it's like Mission Impossible, which I was watching last night, by the way, another time watching Mission Impossible movies. Or I could say no. And I went, oh my God, this is so exciting. This is such a cool phrase. And I went and I took Conscious Millionaire, and within a month I filed all my copyrights, and because I'm an attorney, and got all of those, and started off on that journey of realizing, oh, this is what my life is about. Now, the interesting thing about the story is that the universe, from whence this all comes, didn't bother to tell me what Conscious Millionaire was. I just got the phrase. So I had to figure out, you know, through kind of trial and error and working on the book, that this is really a path that, and it came out of my wound, because if we go back to my story, I made the money really early, but my life was vapid and empty, had no meaning, had no sense of purpose. And I said, I want to help people be very financially successful, but I don't want them to get there and feel empty. I don't want them to have my experience, because I knew how painful that was. I want them every day of their life to feel fulfilled, that they're doing something that has meaning, that they love, that's making a difference in the world. And that became Conscious Millionaire. And now I help people take their purpose, build it into a big vision, develop the business model wherever they are. Wherever they are, we always are redeveloping the business model for more precision, and go out there and make the money, create the profit by transforming people's lives. And this part I can say, all my clients are super happy, because they're getting to make money doing something they believe in, and people's lives are changed. And that's what Conscious Millionaire is about.
So this brings up the big question then, is based on what you've learned since then, what is the difference? Like, what is the difference maker that makes people fulfilled and happy versus the people that get the money and aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm doing a group program right now. On Wednesday, we were working on everybody's purpose. And it's the purpose. It's absolutely that you look at your business from your purpose that turns into a vision for your business, and that you're driving from purpose to profit. That's what brings the fulfillment. That's the magic key right there.
And when you've interviewed people, JV, I mean, first, just to give people a perspective, how many people have you interviewed now?
Well, we're in our 7th year of Conscious Millionaire, 12 million listeners in 190 countries, and I've done over 2,300 episodes. Now, some people have been on more than once, so I don't know exactly how many people I've interviewed, but we've had over 2,300 episodes so far.
And so I guess the first question is, I was going to ask you about those interviews. You know, has almost every person you've interviewed been truly a conscious millionaire? But I guess the bigger question too is, as far as getting that kind of listenership, do you have any tips for people around podcasting for how they can get that level of listenership? Because that's not normal.
Yeah, no, I think the backstory, and I'll do it quickly, is that there used to be an event called Social Media Expo. It's gone now. And I went to it in 2013 and met Jamie Masters now, and with Eventual Millionaire. And she says, "Can I interview you?" And so I said, "Sure." I really knew nothing about podcasting. And she did, and it came out September of that year. And within 3 months, 3 days, I had like $25,000 in coaching clients that had simply contacted me. And I said, "Oh my goodness, this is interesting." So I went about the process of getting on podcasts, because I said, "Oh, this is a good gig. Let's get on podcast." And then the first week of January 2014, I went to a New Media Expo. I think it was my 3rd year there, only with the goal of getting on a lot of podcasts. It never even occurred to me I would do one. And the first night before it started, I registered, and lo and behold, all the breakout sessions, except for the first one, in which case I went to Pat Flynn. Apparently everybody else did, because then the fire marshals came. But all the other breakout sessions had a session on podcasting. And I went to a pre-party where a lot of people who had interviewed me were there. And by the end of that first night, right before the whole 3-day session started, I said, "Oh my God, I'm very intuitive," right? And I said, "Oh, I'm going to do a podcast." Didn't know that. And so I went to all the podcast things. And then I came back and told my team, I said, I'm going to do a podcast and it's going to be huge. I don't know how, but I know I'm supposed to do it. Now, that's an important part of the story. We started interviews because, things, there's that everything else is going on because I was working on my book. July 8th was my first interview of 2014. Ultimately, I interviewed for 60 days and had 62 interviews, full-length interviews. Launched on September 16th. We had 30,000 downloads the first month, 150 the second month, which is not typical. And so we were going to launch in a month. So now I'm going to answer the question, but the setup is important. We were going to launch 30 days in, and I told my team a few days before we were going to launch, and I said, we don't have the marketing figured out. I said, we can't launch. So I kept interviewing. That's how I got 62 interviews, was not the plan. And I didn't plan on launching 5 days a week, but I had so many interviews, I figured, well, these people are going to not be happy with me if they're coming out, 6, 12 months from now. So I better just, start off, and then people came, to be interviewed. So I figured out a lot of marketing pieces I wanted to do, and I had the intuitive hit that this was really a purposeful venture, and I was supposed to be doing it. So I would say that the two pieces there is you need to figure out some good marketing. I mean, Twitter has always been a very strong part of our marketing. We've come up with very good marketing packages. So everybody who's on the show, you've been on the show, you get the day before, you get a marketing package with Twitter, with Facebook, with emails, with custom images. We do all the marketing pieces for everyone and then ask them to market. So that helps a lot. And I think the other piece is listening, and rather than I wasn't coming from an ego place at all. Come from a place of just asking, what am I here to do that's going to serve the world? And the first year I had my podcast, I didn't make a penny. I didn't even think about making money. And here it became really huge because I was only focused. And now I help people put podcasts together, and I have them focused on the money from the beginning. But I don't regret that because I really got clear that I'm here to make a difference in people's lives. And I just focused on how to do that. And I'm a numbers guy. I watch my numbers. I probably checked my numbers 15 times a day, including throughout the night for the first year. Every week I'd be changing how I wrote a tweet. So I was constantly iterating the process of how do I tweet? How do I post? What do I do? How do I get, my guests to go out and promote the show? What are the things that are going to help us get the message out there? Who can I contact that will tell other people? Whose show can I go on and talk about, ultimately partly about my show? And I did all those things intently. So while I was focused on having these great shows, I was also focused every day on what's my numbers, how do I change them, how do I iterate? And literally it took me a year to learn how to write the tweets the way I write them now, and they're highly engaging. So I just kept working at it.
Wow. I mean, there's so much that I could unpack there, JV, but I mean, I feel like one of the biggest things is that you mentioned a key thing, made me think of John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneurs on Fire, because John, for the first 3 months, was coached by Jamie Masters.
Right. I know that.
So of Eventual Millionaire. And so it's like there's a kind of neat synergy between two of you that way. But also what John did is the first year, like yourself, he never tried to figure out how to monetize it. I mean, I think he ultimately monetized it, I think, in about 9 months, but it wasn't the intention. And he never went into it. He said, I'm going to look at this as I'm going to spend money for a year before I ever make a penny. And, the end result is both you and him have pretty high listenerships on your show. So maybe there's something there about going in, like you said, to serve and create an impact before thinking about making money.
Yeah, I think that you've got to now I help people do it all simultaneously. But if you're not driven to really make a difference in people's lives, I mean, that's my whole shtick. I mean, those are the people who are attracted, who want me to coach them. And I have people paying me very high fees to work with them because they want to make the money, but they want to make the money in a way that they feel made a difference. And that's just as, I would say, the conscious millionaire is really the dual drive to make a difference and to get rich. You know, and people have to do all kinds of work on both of those. I mean, like there'll be people who come in that are in my group programs and they're struggling with, is it okay to charge? Right. And I think that's a normal thing to come up with people. And because the kind of people who come to me tend to be, like myself, givers by nature. Right. And the number one thing that I have to work with people is called, and you matter too. Right? And you're important and you have significance and you're worthy. So I have to work on those parts with people, not the giving part. You know, I don't have people come to me and say, oh, I just want to get rich. In fact, on my show, I go out of my way. I go, if all you want is the money and you really don't care about the world, I am not your person. You'll be better off, just go work with somebody else. There are people who are, you know, are into that journey. I'm into the journey that we're here to uplift one another. And we should get rich from it because we're adding value and we're getting paid for value. But I have to help people totally connect to that and do internal work. We all have internal work to do. It doesn't matter where we are on the journey. We all have that ceiling we've got to break through next so we can go to the next level. I'm there, you know, billionaires are there. You know, there are people who are stuck at 3 billion, you know, and you might be hearing that and go, oh, poor thing. But really, you want them to go to 10 billion because if they're providing products and services that are making a difference for other people, they'll be providing it at a higher level. But they also have to do that work.
Absolutely. I love that. And so, Kelly, I don't want to steal all JV's time here. Did you want to jump in with any questions or anything you want to follow up with, anything he said so far?
Yeah, well, I love what JV's talking about, but one of the questions I had is, what does it take to become a guest on your show?
That's a fantastic question because, and I only mean this because we just get pitched crazy. Is I turn down over 90% of the pitches, but I turn them down because they aren't the fit. I'm looking for something very specific. I only interview 2 types of people. One, you are already a conscious millionaire, and by that I mean you're a millionaire and you own a business that makes some kind of a positive impact, that you're driven to transform people or organizations, to uplift them, take them to a better place. So I interview that type of person, and then I interview what I call world-class experts. So you have a strong following. Many of those people are millionaires, but that's not their the way they want to be known. I mean, if you sat and just thought about it and did the numbers of what they're doing, you know they're making a lot of money, but that's not their MO. Their MO is some specific way that they're an expert, and they're an expert in various areas that can either help an entrepreneur grow personally, help them grow their business in some way, but you have a good following, typically 25, 50,000 followers at least, because I want them to bring their followers on. And most of those people also have some conscious angle to what they're doing. But those are the 2 kinds of people that we interview. That can include marketers, people on selling, mindset. I do a separate show on mindset, Conscious Millionaire Mindset show, personal development, how to scale your business, any aspects of the mechanics of business. But there's a world-class level to the person.
Cool. Excellent. Good to know.
And the question or follow-up I want to ask you about, JV, as far as the listenership for those that are creating a podcast, what has been your experience? And I ask this because of what you just said, that you are typically looking for people with a following. What's been your experience in terms of them sharing their time on the show? Because I know some people struggle. They bring guests on, think they're going to do the work and share the show, and then they never do. So what's been your experience?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a fantastic question, Corey. And I think the secret is what we do. I'm on a lot of shows, and I know you are too. So I'm just going to give you, you're listening, I want to give you exactly the experience. The overwhelming majority of shows I'm on, and a lot of them are top shows, is that when the show comes out, they send me the link and they say, will you promote it? Now, I'm in the business, and we actually have a 5-day promotion we have created that we can plug that link in and promote my appearance for 5 days. I want you to know that I'm a rare creature, and most people, if you just send them a link, aren't going to do anything with it because they don't know what to do with it, right? No instructions. So that's why we put together this elaborate marketing. It has my image and their image on a custom image, custom Twitter images, custom tweets, an email that they can send out to their group, something they can drop into Facebook. They get the image for the show. We give them a 3-step, do this, do this, do this, and more people will know about it. And then I send them a personal email on top of my team, thanking them for doing it, right? The same day they get it. Like, thank you so much for promoting. So we provide the marketing to people, and that's why they will promote it, because we've already done the work. All they have to do is give it to their assistant, put it in Twitter. We've already written the tweets for you. We've already created the images for you. We have your picture and my picture on an image together, you know? And if you don't do that, I don't think you're going to get much response.
So here's a follow-up to that then, JV. Why, and so this is for people that maybe are just getting around to the idea of doing a podcast. I know Kelly's considering that as well. But why do you put in all the effort, and why do you send people to your podcast, or the goal of sending them that direction versus sending them to an offer, in the sense that, is the podcast really done that much for your business?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I have an offer I want to give everybody here. We've talked about it before, people, so I'm not like sneaking up on this. Every show that we do has an offer in it. And so it's something that we give them for free, and that leads to other things. So we do that consistently in every show that I'm a guest on. I ask before we record or go live, can I do an offer? And the offer is just free. It's something that's high value that we give away. And that way we can have people come into our community because they heard me. So it isn't just that we'll mention that you can go listen to the show at consciousmillionaireshow.com. People may or may not go, but if I give somebody something that's really high value and they don't have to pay for it, people are going to come and want that.
Absolutely. So that's a good segue to ask you, what's the offer here? What are you going to offer people?
Yeah, so I have 9 years of training in NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis, multiple certifications, and I create hypnotic empowerment audios. So I've created a series of them during the pandemic because I knew that people needed help. But one of them that people just love is called Born to Make Millions. Now, if that doesn't make you salivate, then it's not for you. But it's also not vapid. It's only 6 minutes, but it gets down into your purpose and the impact you're making and how to program your mind so that you're looking at how to make a bigger impact to make your millions, but that we were all born to make millions. We need to get on that track so we can help more people and we can live at a higher level. And if you want that empowerment audio, and then what I'd like for you to do when you get it is, for the next 7 days, and then if you like that, go on for 30 days. But for 7 days, listen to it in the morning. Again, it's only 6 minutes. Listen to it in the evening, and then 5 minutes a day. If you want to get the most out of it, journal about, I was born to make millions. And see what comes up for 5 minutes. And you'll start getting all kinds of insights about, yes, I was born to make millions. And I figured that out at 5. So I want you to have that, and this will shift your mindset, shift your perception of who you are, shift your perception of what reality is, and therefore shift your belief that that's actually true for you. And that's at consciousmillionaire.com/make millions. That's consciousmillionaire.com/make millions. And you can go sign up for that right now and get instant access to it.
Love it. And I'm going to put that right in the comment section here. And I'm also going to include it in my newsletter, JV, so that people, we do a kind of a summary or follow up there as well. So JV, the time goes way quicker than we plan sometimes. So we're right down to the wire. So I have to call this to be continued with your permission as well. But in the interim, as far as, I guess, we talked podcasting a lot. I guess, can you tell us, in your opinion, why all coaches all great coaches especially, but all great coaches and all people need a coach.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because I'm constantly working with coaches, and it's really several things. One, the obvious is accountability, that we all need some external accountability. It's not the same thing as internal accountability. The external accountability we can have without a coach is a deadline, right? Like we have to do this by this deadline. Great coaches that are really people who have an enormous level of insight, and they have the ability to listen and hear what's going on with somebody and therefore help them make the shifts. But it's very hard to individually clarify what you want and then what are the steps to get there, because we get in our own way. And so we don't develop as good a steps as somebody looking on or collaborating. I'm a very collaborative coach. So we kind of like, let's pull up our sleeves. What do you want to accomplish? I have a formula of what mindset needs to shift, what strategy needs to shift, and what action needs to shift. Without that kind of a coach, you're going to not get there as fast. But here's an important criteria. So like in my coaching agreements that are a year long, I guarantee, and Jay Abraham wrote it for me because he's a friend of mine, so it's a risk reversal, that you will at least double your investment minimum. But I'm looking for people to get at least a 3 to 5, and I've had lots of people get 20 plus returns on their investment. So I would say when you're talking to your coach, prospective coach, ask them, what is your guarantee? And you're going to find most people won't give one because they're scared to give it. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to get results, you should give a guarantee. There's no reason not to. And the other thing is, well, what kind of ROI can I get? If you're not, for every dollar you spend, coaching or otherwise, in your business, you should get at least a 3 to 5-fold return. That's what you should be looking for every dollar you spend. You should never spend $1 and get $1 of value back. You should get $3 to $5 back or more. And that's the way you should evaluate every decision, whether you're buying a program, you're getting a coach, you're hiring some marketing, you should be getting a 3 to 5-fold return. And if you look at all of your business that way, you're going to grow much faster. But if you evaluate coaches and I'm just telling you right out, because I do this, if a coach balks at that, why are you paying them money? And I'm not calling out any names. There are a lot of great coaches out there, but if a coach can't in some way guarantee or project that you're going to get at least a 3 to 5-fold return, in my opinion, you shouldn't be working with them, and you shouldn't be buying any services or any products that aren't going to give you that 3 to 5-fold return.
I so appreciate that, JV, because, and I'll also add in what you just said, and Kelly, you can probably give your thoughts on this, but there's very few coaches that would offer a guarantee like that. And I say that as somebody who's a member, for example, of the Coaching Jungle, where there's literally, I think there's close to 20,000 coaches in there now. And I see them talk about guarantees all the time. And again, I'm not picking a name at all, but there's a lot of people that will say, well, it's up to the client if they do the work, so I'm not going to guarantee them anything. And so it's very rare you hear somebody making any kind of guarantee around coaching. So I'm
well, I'm in Coaching Jungle as well. And Mark's been on my show numerous times. I've been on his as well. And there is a philosophy for that. I 100% obviously disagree with that. And here's the piece that's maybe missing for that person. I highly vet. My coaching starts at 30 to 50,000, goes up to $250,000. And so of course I would like that money, but I vet my client as strongly as they vet me, because if the chemistry isn't right, if I'm not convinced they're going to do the work, quote unquote, then this isn't the right journey to take. I can, on a private level, I can only work with a few people. I want to work with people who are dedicated to doing the work. And if they're dedicated to do the work, I can guarantee I will facilitate the work. And we're going to get there because I'm determined we're going to get there. But they've got to believe it and be driven more than I am. And it took me a long time to realize that, because I just believe in people and I want the best for them. But I realized if people aren't themselves driven to get there, that it's not as likely to be successful. But if people are driven and they go, I want to do the work, whatever we need to deal with, I'm willing to deal with. I'm willing to deal with the internal parts. I'm willing to deal with my team might not be quite right. I'm willing to make the changes. Then I can guide them and we can get there. So there's got to be a fit, and you got to know exactly who you are best to work with.
Love it. So, JV, I know you gave us a way people can connect with you and grab the audio, and I literally have already grabbed the audio myself. But my question, to finish things off, is there anywhere else you'd send people, another hub, or anything else you want to let people in on before?
Well, I've been doing this for 2 years. The first time I did what I'm about to do, I was on How Elrod, who's become a friend, and he's been on my show, and I gave out my cell phone. And nobody has ever abused it. So I just trust the process. So I'm going to give you my cell phone. Here's what I'm going to ask. Just text me. Just text me. Put BLUE, B-L-U, in the subject line. And tell me your name. Tell me your URL and what you'd like to talk to me about. And this is the fun part. I am going to call you. I am going to text you back. And people go, oh my God, you called me. I said, I told you I was going to call you. This is, no assistant sees this. It's my cell phone. And I'm going to give it to you, and just text me. I'll be glad to text you. I'll be glad to, set up a time for us to talk. I want you to get ahead, and it's 303-641-0401. That's 303-641-0401. Just text me. Tell me your name. Tell me BLUE, B-L-U, so I know where you came from. Tell me your URL and what it is you'd like to talk about. I'd love to help you grow your business, and I'll give you any insights absolutely free that I see in your business, just because I want you to get ahead.
Amazing. And I've said this before. We had one other guest, I think, since we started this series, who's given their cell. And you are in such good company, JB. I think I said, Kelly, you heard me say this, I think this week maybe, or last time, but the only people that have done that thus far have been Bill Bartman, who passed away recently, a couple years ago, but he was a billionaire. He gave his cell phone out. Michael E. Gerber, Tom Ziegler, and there was one more, and I forget who that fourth one was. Those are off the top of my head the only people I've ever given their cell numbers on my interviews, and I've done over 6,000 interviews. So
Jerry Foster did just the other day too.
Oh, Jerry Foster. Okay, so maybe that's the fourth. So there you go. You're in good company, my friend.
Thank you. I really want to just give a shout out to everybody listening, and I have a formula for creating wealth. I think the names, the 3 steps are pretty self-evident, but I do trainings on it as well. And it's conscious, focused action. You have to be conscious of where you're going and why you want to get there, who you need to have on your team to get there, and what's the best strategy. That's the first step. And the reason I want to call that out is that what I find is most entrepreneurs are so, I just got to go take some action. Well, until you know where you're going, the action doesn't matter. Taking time to really get clarity about that is the difference between success and, to be honest, failure.
Awesome. JB, this has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be. Like I said, I'll call it a to be continued with your permission, because I know I
would love to come back anytime you want me.
Awesome. Well, let's make that happen. And, this is probably our 6th or 7th round with each other. So yes. I know it's a to be continued, but thank you so much, JV. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to send you to the backstage, but like I say, we'll share the message, we'll spread the word, and we'll raise the flag for you.
Thank you. And Corey and Kelly, thank you so much for hosting.
Good. Thank you, JV. It's been great chatting with you.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too, my friend.
Bye.
So, wow, fantastic. And I have to say, Kelly, something JV said there, and Laura Connor just commented, thanks, JV, for sharing all your valuable insights. Enjoyed it very much. Fantastic show, Corey and Kelly. Thank you so much, Laura. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you. I was going to say something that he said there about coaching, and I think it's really important, is that on the coaching side, I have a high-performance coach I work with, and I just signed up, as I mentioned the other day, for Kyle Wilson's Inner Circle Mastermind, which could lead me into signing up for coaching with Kyle. And again, not inexpensive is what I'll say. But my high-performance coach, one of the things she said, and this goes back to what JV said, and I want people to think about this, is the self-motivation side. I'm with a high performance coach because I want to keep myself focused, which is hard for me to do. And it's in my personality nature to not be focused. And so she keeps me focused, but we also sometimes some of our calls are unfocused, and that's intentional. But the one thing she said is, I know, and I'm not saying this is going to be a case for everybody, but she said, I know I don't have to kick you in the pants to get the result. I know you're going to do the work. She said, I don't have to be the coach that's beating you up with a stick because you were, and not that any coach does that, but actually drives you harder. I don't have to do that because I know you're self-motivated. I know you want this desperately. And so I just bring this up to people is be coachable, but at the very same time, be motivated. Don't go to a coach expecting them to do the work and do the lifting for you. As Zig Ziglar said, you can't hire anybody to do your push-ups for you and still get the same results. And so don't go to a coach expecting that's going to happen. And so I love what JV said there is that I offer guarantee because I also vet people to make sure I'm not working with people that won't do the lifting. Because that's why most people probably won't guarantee the coaching is because they don't know when they bring a person on if they're going to do the lifting or not. Well, what he's saying is because he's charging a high enough fee, he's got to actually determine that, because if he's going to offer the money back, you got to be sure that they're going to do the work. So I wanted to just add that. And then another thing is we talked about this, and then I want to bring our guest on right away, but we talked about this a couple times in the last week, and it's a question I get all the time, so I'm trying to reveal the golden nugget out of this. But the question I get, which I'm sure JV does all the time, is how do you get such big name guests on your show? And you've heard some people talk about that this week. And the biggest takeaway I feel has been give first. Give without expecting. Like, in other words, don't expect the other person to say, here's my list, or here's the contact info for insert name here, Jack Canfield, since we mentioned him earlier. Here's the contact info for Jack Canfield. I'm only going to get 1 or 2 asks from Jack in my life. So if I've just barely met you, for you to send me a message, I see you interviewed Jack Canfield, can you send me his number? It's not going to happen. And so you got to give first without expecting. But why I bring this up is JV, and he won't mind me saying this, I don't think, but off air, Kelly, he's, you heard him, he asked me if a couple people, would be a good fit for my show. And he's looking for certain guests. Well, he's given to me before he's ever asked for that. Well, the same way I've done the same. And so he mentioned Hal Elrod, and I'm putting this out publicly, really. I'd like to have Hal Elrod on the show. Hal's the guy I mentioned the other day who sold, remember we talked to Chandler Bolt? Hal's the guy who sold 1 million copies of his book through podcasting. Well, I want to get that insight out of him. And so I'd like to get Hal on the show. Now, I haven't tried often, but JV just mentioned Hal's a good friend of mine. So because I built a relationship with JV, you just heard it's been like our 6th or 7th interview, I don't mind reaching out to JV and saying, hey, any chance you can connect me with Hal? But the point I want people to know is I dug the well before I was thirsty. I've said this all week. I did the work and put in the effort and built a relationship before I've ever asked for that. So I would never ask JV, if we've done one interview together, hey, can you connect me with Hal? But I have no issue at all asking for that now, and I know he would feel the same. So I just want to put that out there. And by the way, that's a great segue for our next guest, because this guest, every time we've done something together, it's been him. And I don't mean like only him, but I mean it's been him who said every time, is there any way I can help you? How can I support you? What can I do for you? Can I connect you with other people? And I will say I've connected him with people he's brought on the show and all that kind of stuff. But every time he never ceases to ask this. And I think if you have that kind of trait and you have that kind of service approach to people, people are going to want to give to you even before you ask. So that was my segue to bring him on, but I just wanted to put that out there. So Tallal Gondal, so excited to have you here today, my friend. It's been too long. And where we usually start these is we usually get you to introduce yourself a little bit, and then we dive in. And, Kelly and you'll get a chance to meet each other a little bit more too. But did you mind telling us just a little bit more about your backstory, my friend?
Absolutely. First of all, Corey, thank you so much. And thank you, Kelly, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you guys have done a tremendous job so far. I've been following the interviews. I've been coming on and watching all the other guests, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And in terms of my intro, well, it's going to be quite interesting. First of all, I live in England. Okay. And as you can see, there's some shadows behind me. It's because I'm in a well-lit room, except that it's dark as midnight outside. And here it's barely 5 p.m. in the evening. Okay, so I live in England, and my actual profession is actually that I'm a maths lecturer. But what happened is that a few years ago, because of my passion, I started to reach out and started connecting with people because I had started a YouTube channel. I was on a journey to find out more about self-development and improve myself. and I wanted to share that journey with other people. And so I started a YouTube channel. It's called Hustle is for Life Motivation, and I would just interview people. But the crazy thing was that even though I was not a YouTuber, even though I'm no good at SEO and digital marketing and all that sort of stuff, and building email lists and all that kind of things, because I was just a maths lecturer who just started a show. The interesting thing was that I was able to bring on world-class, amazing guests onto my show, and I was, start to build relationships, start to make friendships with them. Just like you mentioned before, Corey, you and I became friends through that. It was really interesting to me to see that, well, actually, while I'm no good at doing all the other kind of technical stuff, I am, however, very good at building relationships with people. And so what I actually really do, some of my super passions in life are actually building relationships with people. And that is where you come from a place of value, you come from a place of service. You don't show up making an ask, you come from a place of service. And that's really important. Because in life, it's a business. I say life is a business, right? And what business is it? It's a people business. Life is a people business. And I absolutely believe in that. And so that's one of my passions, super passion, building relationships with people. Another super passion that I have is to create holistic success, not just in one area of life, but in all areas of life, okay? So that means to constantly improve yourself and get better. And that requires you to get to your max, get to 100%, really max out, and still keep going. That's where growth happens. That's where you expand. So that's another one of my passions, super passion. And final one is to build a savage mindset. So the savage mindset is where you make sure that you are able, you don't need motivation. You don't need somebody to come and tell you. I mean, you were mentioning that right now, self-motivation. You don't need a coach to kind of kick you in the pants, or you don't need somebody to actually come up to you and say, hey, you haven't done this or you haven't done that. It's the fact that you are in charge. You know that, and you get on with it. You don't need to wait for inspiration. So that's just a very quick introduction from my side.
I love it. And Kelly, I hope you caught that. I love that term. I've never heard that. As a person that speaks on your why, finding your why and passion, I've never heard anybody call it their super passion. It made me feel like you're saying your superpower. Like your super passion is something you were more passionate about than anything else. And I just love that, super passion. Never heard that before. So first of all, that's cool. There's very rarely that I hear something fresh that I hadn't heard before, and super passion is the new one for today. So thanks so much. I love that.
Awesome. Well, I also, you know what, you and I obviously know each other, and I was actually going to interview Kelly. I don't know if Kelly, if you remember that, but we connected, Corey connected us, and I was actually going to interview on my show. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen. Yeah. I have all the messages there. I was looking over them because I knew you were going to be there as well. But yeah, I was going to actually interview for my show because you're so brilliant. I've been following your stuff, and so grateful to have connected with you.
Well, I noticed your name on my schedule, and I'm like, who is this? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We're interviewing him on our Amplify Your Message show. And I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I'm excited about meeting with you. So cool. Yeah. So, it's totally true about your super passion is that you're a master connector. And so I love that about you. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Kelly.
So let me ask you this then, because here's the part that most people struggle with, which is the patience to do it, because we're now in a, for lack of a better way of saying it, I mean, I love that term. We're in a microwave society now because we want everything microwave. We want everything zapped in 30 seconds and it's in my hand. And so the idea of being a super connector or a connector, even just there's a super connector who connects a lot of people, but even a connector that connects somebody once every month or so, it's still the idea of having the patience to build that because everybody wants it quickly. What allows you to be patient? Is it the fact that you're enjoying the journey and you actually believe in the service to others? Because that's where a lot of people are like, well, I love that idea, but I want it all tomorrow.
Yeah, so Corey, the patience side of things is something that is part of the game. So I think a lot of people just need to understand that patience is a part of the game. You have to be patient. Now, what allows you to manifest or cultivate that patience is simply the fact that you have to realize that you really need to remove yourself from the outcome. Okay, you have to be on this journey, and the goal for people, and this is my philosophy, and I'll share this with everybody here. The philosophy that you need to have in life, this kind of outlook, the filter that you put on yourself when you see the world, when you get out there and meet everybody, is the fact that you want to come from a place of value. You want to come from a place of service. You shouldn't have any expectations. And also for yourself, the fact is, like I said, you need to enjoy the journey. And what is my journey? My journey is the fact that every single day I'm trying to push a rock up a mountain. And my goal is not to get the rock to the top of the mountain. My goal is just to push the rock. And if it ever gets to the top of the mountain, I'll push it down myself. And that's the mindset you need to have, that it's about the journey. Your growth happens in the journey. When you cross the finish line, there is no growth there. The growth is along the way, all the hardships that you face. And I firmly believe that, part of that building a savage mindset, you have to face adversity. You have to face challenges. You have to actively put challenges in front of yourself. And that's simply to cultivate that mindset that you have the strength, the inner strength, to be able to go and deal with whatever comes your way.
Something that's really big there that I want to not gloss over, and Kelly, I want to give you a chance to jump in as well, but something you said there about the journey, and I guess I started the question about the journey as well, but what I've started to say in the last couple of years, and it's more of a question, but I think we know what I feel the answer is, but the question is, what if the journey is really the destination? And so, for me, where I struggled until I got that train of thought was that if I had a book, like, I don't have one of mine in front of me right now, but if I was putting together a book, and Shelly, my girlfriend, would be the first to tell you this, she's like, you don't sit in the moment and just enjoy it. But let's say this was my book, since I have it near me, 3 Feet from Gold, which is by Sharon Lecter and Greg Reed, Napoleon Hill Foundation. But let's say I wrote that book and released it. No matter what happens with that book, I'm like, that's awesome because it's impacting lives. But I never just go, look at me, look what I made, and get super excited about it. So, and I have this challenge that I've constantly been that way my whole life, where I get I get this motivation to get to that final destination, thinking, this is what I thought for years, the destination was going to be the payoff. And it never was. So I get the book out in my hand and go, oh, next. It was never a big thing. And so for years I struggled with that, because you don't get that feeling, because you never get the fulfillment. You're just like, next, and it didn't mean anything. But I still have the drive to do the stuff. And so ultimately what I started figuring out is, if I ever wanted to enjoy this or had that fulfillment in life, I needed to enjoy the journey of it. So that means even enjoying the sitting down and writing the chapter in the book. That means enjoying the actual dealing with a publisher on the book. That means Kelly and I launching the book and me enjoying the conversations that happen there. And I think for a lot of more influencers than we realize don't enjoy the destination, meaning they don't enjoy the payoff of, now I've made this. What they enjoy is either doing the work, or they don't have any fulfillment like I did and don't know why. So to your point, I think if you can get enjoyment about connecting people and the journey, like I just connected somebody, I talked to her today. She wants to bring me on her virtual event. And she says, do you know anybody else who does this type of thing? And, Kelly, I won't say their last names because, I don't want to out them, but 2 people I thought would be a great fit is Michelle and Travis, who I think you know. And I thought they'd be a great fit for this person. If you don't know them, I can tell you later. But I basically said these guys would be a great fit. And I got excited to connect the 3 of them, meaning the person and these 2 other people. And by the way, they don't even have to thank me. Like, I don't even need the thanking of a payoff. As a payoff, I get excited now about, I've connected these people and smoke will rise and things will happen. And so, and that is a long tangent to say for people listening, when it comes to the patience, if you can find a way to enjoy the journey, then you don't need to be patient anymore, because you'll get the payoff every day. It's just like if you're a server and you give stuff to people and you try to give back and volunteer your time, the payoff is in the volunteering of the time, not the person saying you're awesome because you volunteered your time, waiting for somebody to say that. It's hard early on to make that transition, and going back to the point, I think this is what had to happen for me to enjoy the journey, is I had to realize the payoff's in the journey. That's just maybe a side rant, but I don't know your thoughts on that, Tallal, but I know you already said, I mean, the patience part of it is actually doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when it comes to connecting people, you will have the patience part it can be quite challenging, because like you said, people like, well, let's get to the results. Let's have it there. But I think what people also will realize is that as you start to connect more and more people, as you start to build those relationships, you cultivate those relationships, they start to bear fruit. They start to give back. It's a natural thing for all of us. We pass somebody on the street and we smile, we give them a big smile, and what do? They reciprocate, right? And that's what happens. Like when you connect other people, they reciprocate. And so what you see is that if you detach yourself from the outcome, a specific thing that you want to achieve, if you just enjoy the journey as it happens, you will see that there's a lot of reciprocation that comes your way without you ever even asking for it, without ever intending to have it. It just comes your way because you showed up the right way.
So
I'm actually writing a book about this, Corey. All of my experience from actually, bringing all these amazing people on my show, and I've interviewed you, a couple of times on my show as well, and other people. So I'm actually writing a book about it right now, where I'm putting all these, ideas, concepts, and things like that in one place. So the goal of the book is to build a mindset, but also to give you a set of skills that you can actually, in a sense, replicate again and again.
I'm so happy you're doing that. I feel like there's the super connector thing. There's some kind of name you can have in a future title of a book around the word super connector and super passions. I think there's something there, like, being a superhero of those two things, and you in like some sort of, or like a superhero outfit on the front. I'll leave that for later. But I mean,
you and your superhero thing. You were doing that yesterday too.
Oh, really?
You were telling me about TikTok videos that I need to put on a superhero hat.
Maybe I have some weird like comic. What do you call it? Comic-Con? Maybe I have some weird like Comic-Con thing where I like go into Comic-Con, and I went once in my life, and Shelly and I just thought it was so cool, like all the costumes that people were wearing and how much they look like the hero of their choice or what have you. I thought it was cool that people actually were in that whole thing. And by the way, as a side note, have you guys ever heard of bronies?
Nope.
No. Most people haven't. I hadn't before either. I think I have the name right. But anyway, it's like there's men and women, but mostly men, I think, that are into My Little Pony and dress up like ponies.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
This is not like an underground thing I'm talking about. This was like a documentary on Netflix. They have their own Comic Cons for just bronies. Anyway, this is a whole thing. I never got into that, but maybe there's something there. Maybe maybe I need to start dressing up like a superhero if I brought it up twice in 2 days. I'll have to figure out why that happened. So, but that was a complete side tangent. Having said that, as far as the super connector and what you're doing with a book coming out, what do you think inside of you makes you that type of person? Like, because not everybody's built like that. So, did you have somebody else in your life that did that for you and you went, I want to do that too? Or were you just born that way? Or did you say, you know what, this is the best way to treat people? I'm just curious what triggered that.
So I think there's a lot of that sort of misconception about introvert, extrovert, or you're born this way, or you have these certain skills naturally, or you don't. And I think that's not true. I think the skills, the beliefs, the ideas that you have can be cultivated. And that's part of having a growth mindset. So if you have a growth mindset, you need to firmly believe in yourself that you might not have the skills at the moment, but over time, with effort, you can cultivate them. And I think that's the biggest thing I want people to take away from this, is the fact that you don't have to pretend to be somebody else. You can be who you are. But that doesn't mean that you stop improving. Right? So that's where I was talking about earlier, my kind of super passion about holistic success, to show up every single day as the best version of myself and still work on myself to get better. So there's these skills that you can cultivate. So in my case, what I find is that if I show up in the world a certain way, if I have that belief, if I work hard, if I come from a place of service, if I come from a place of value, if I want to try and just help people without any expectation, detach myself from the outcome, I'm not here to make millions, okay? That will hopefully happen organically as like a result of my efforts. But I'm not setting out with the goal of becoming a millionaire, or set off with the goal of becoming a world-class influencer or anything like that. I just want to connect with the next person in front of me and give them all I have. If I'm not showing up and I'm not giving you everything that I have, why am I here? And that's the question you need to ask yourself. Why am I here if I'm not bringing the best version of me? If I'm not giving you every single thing that I have? And so my goal is to just connect with the next person. My goal is not to make millions or to become a world-class influencer or anything like that. And I think if you have that sort of mindset, what you're doing is you end up creating a chain of dominoes. That's what you're doing. Each time you do that, each time you have a conversation, each time you connect with somebody, each time you actually give value, you set up another piece of the domino. And once it's all set up, by applying the smallest of momentums, you can create a chain reaction that's going so fast. Your success is happening so fast that it's impossible to stop it now.
Wow. And so since you started this, I guess, what has, and this is kind of maybe a unique question, but what has surprised you the most? When you started this whole idea of connecting people and connecting with other people yourself and interviewing people, has there been something that sort of surprised you that you didn't expect or didn't see coming?
I think one of the biggest things, and I think for the people in the audience, if you're live here right now, you can maybe think, in terms of whether you have the same sort of belief. When I started this, Corey, I had the belief that who am I? How am I going to add value to world-class people like Corey? Well, how am I going to add value to somebody like Dory Clark or Jean McNaughton, who are they're absolute super power players. They're super achievers, right? So how am I going to add value to them? What do I have to give? And the thing that was absolutely amazing was how much they wanted to give back. Once I showed up the right way, once I actually really, was genuine, I was being authentic, I was being transparent. And I mean that truly, not just like, one of those cliche words, but to really show up that way. And if you do that, they reciprocate. They want to give back. And I've been blessed by so many opportunities coming my way, which I never would have expected, including being here right now today. I never expected that. I never asked you, Corey. I never did anything. I have showed up every single time and I said, hey, how can I help you? You're launching a book, right? Okay, let's see what I can do for you here. Hey, you're launching this program. Let's see what I can do for you here. This Blue Talks thing, I've been trying to put that on social media, even though I wasn't, part of the first 4 days. I was only part of today. So I was doing that. I was having conversations with other guests, Jolie Glassman and Dave Clare. We've become actually good friends now because I'm having conversations with those guys behind the scenes.
That is awesome. Well, and to further that point, just for others that wouldn't know this, you can go check this out right now on my Facebook page. But Tallal also, even my other event that I'm a part of today, like I by osmosis, like I'm here and I'm also live somewhere else. I think in an hour I'll be live at both at the same time, which is not humanly possible, meaning the other one's pre-recorded. But you already shared that. Like I shared it and said, hey guys, if you want to check this out. And first thing he did, I mean, it was within minutes, he shared that and said, hey, check out the event that Corey's a part of. I mean, this, that's I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say. You're actually doing the stuff. You're living it. It's not just, as you said, inauthentic or a facade. You're actually living this. And we had a guest. I think he was the first guest. Kelly, you might remember better than me, but I think he was the first guest on Wednesday, Coach Jim Johnson. I talked about how Jim, you're probably familiar with Jim. I talked about how Jim is that person that when you connect on Twitter, when you connect on LinkedIn, you retweet him, he actually goes out of his way to say, thanks for the retweet. You don't even have to comment. Thanks for the retweet. And I mentioned last time around, Bob Berg is the only other person I know. Those are the two guys that do that. And you're the same. And so you're in good company because I tell everybody who listens about the fact that both those guys, Bob Berg, I mean, has, I think, 3 international best-selling books. And we're talking like Wall Street Journal, USA Today, I think even New York Times, guys speaking like 200 days a year on the road on busy years. And he still thanks people for retweets. Who doesn't? And, and Jim's the same way. So you're in that kind of company, my friend. And so that's part of why I wanted to bring you on today, because not everybody's willing to be at that level of service without knowing there'll ever be a payoff. And so I think that's the key thing a lot of people miss, without knowing there will ever be a payoff. I feel like we all know inherently it'll come back somehow, some way, shape, or form. But if you go into it expecting that, it'll never happen. And it's a weird comparison, but it makes me think. I did an interview. I feel like it was back in April. I might have the timeline totally wrong. It might have been August. August makes more sense, I think. Not actually, and not this one, the year before. But I did an interview with Jack Canfield where he was talking about after a lot of people don't know this, but he said it in the interview, so I know I can say it publicly. But they sold the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, the brand, quite a while ago. And he said when they did that, he had a really big check. Now he said the amount. I won't get into the details because we did the interview, but it hasn't aired yet. So I'll just say a large amount of money. And he had made the commitment, and they did, that a percentage of every book sale from Chicken Soup will be donated to charity. Now, they did this all along. And you think about hundreds of millions of books sold, I'm sure a lot of monies went to charity because of that. But they also, that part of that, he said, was that meant that when we sold the book series, we had to also write a check for that amount, like that percentage of the full sale. And he said, that was one of the hardest checks I ever had to write in my life because it was a big check. And he said, and I never went into any of this thing thinking if I write this check, I'll get something back. He said, but what I can tell you is that I think it was, he said, the biggest check he ever wrote for charity. I had one check at once. And he said, no matter what I've ever done in my whole life, no matter how hard I've tried, I can never outgive what comes back to me. Yeah. And so, and again, if you know him, you know he wasn't trying to get it back. But what he's saying is, looking at the history now over the last whatever amount of years of giving back, it always came back tenfold. He could never outgive. No matter what he did, it came back. I mean, you have to have faith to believe that when you're doing it. But I think if you go into it not expecting to get back, then you don't have to worry about the faith because you're believing you're doing it for the right reasons. But I always thought, I mean, this is only about a year ago, the interview, but that's really sticks out to me, the fact that he said, he was shaking right in the check. But he said he gave it out and he said it has to go to the universe. It has to. And I don't care what the reason is that I made this agreement and commitment and it had to go to the universe. And like I say, it came back to him tenfold. And I mean, I think we can say, and he'd be the first to say, his life has been pretty blessed. And yet you look at how much money he's given to others and contributed. And, obviously that involves giving of time as well and coaching others and mentoring others. And I do believe it comes back to you. So what you're doing, knowing that, or not knowing what's going to come back to you, at the end of the day, I know it's going to come back to you because you're doing it for the right reasons. So that's, I think that's super crucial. Now, you talked about doing the interviews. We have about 10 minutes left, so I want to dive into this area for a minute or two. But you talked about doing the interviews that you did on YouTube, and you said how it was all a learning curve and a learning experience. Was that, I mean, there's an example, and I don't mean from a perspective of you giving back within that, but just in general, putting your time into that, was that a smart move? For people that are thinking about, should I launch an interview series or a show or what have you, do you find that was a good move for you? Was that a good choice to make?
So, Corey, I'll be upfront with everybody here. And so I'll share this. I did that for a couple of years. And, I'm taking a break at the moment because I'm writing my book. So I haven't quite continued on with that. But even to this day, I haven't got millions from it. I actually haven't got, a business behind it. That was just something as a hobby. I started because I wanted to grow. I wanted to improve myself, and I wanted to just connect with people. I wanted to, find out what are they doing? What did their journey look like? And I was just curious. So my whole thing was just that I was just curious. I had curiosity. And I have a very curious mind anyway. I'm always, dabbling in all sorts of other stuff, from like quantum physics and cosmology to, mysticism and all sorts of other stuff. So I was just curious. I just wanted to know, how are people doing? What does the journey look like? What do they experience along their journey? And so that's all it was. And even to this day, I'm being upfront here. I haven't got a business behind it. Obviously, I want to try and, build a business. I'm writing a book, and, hopefully that will be published, and then I can take it from there. But I didn't rush anything. And I wasn't after a particular outcome. Like I said, I detached myself from the outcome and just enjoyed the journey. And I think that's what's happened for me, because I grew as a person. I grew as a human being. And then I was able to give back even more to other people. So I think the question of, was that the right decision? I think absolutely, 100%, I would not change anything. I would do exactly the same thing, maybe even more. If I had to do it again, I'll probably do even more. But my point is that I didn't start off by saying, hey, I want to build a business behind it. Or, I didn't start off by saying, I need to get to X amount in this time period. There was no KPIs I was chasing, and there was no, sort of a digital footprint that I was trying to leave behind. I mean, I'm not very good at social. I told you, like, from the beginning, in my intro, I said I'm not very good with the technical SEO stuff. That's not who I am. I'm just good at building relationships. I'm just good at connecting with people. And despite the fact that I'm not successful in that traditional sense of the entrepreneurial sort of space, my life is rich. I have you in my life. I have Kelly, that I connected with before. I mean, we couldn't do the interview because I think, Kelly, you weren't feeling well that time. So, maybe we can reschedule for the future. But I have Kelly. I have Dory in my life, Dory Clark. I have Jean McNaughton. I'm sure they'll be okay me mentioning their names here because, I've actually interviewed them. That's actually on YouTube. And so having those people in your life is the real value. I could have had, made money from it, but would I be able to get those relationships from that money? Would I be able to, say to Dory Clark, hey, can I be your friend? Would I be able to pay, give some money to Corey and say, hey, Corey, can we be friends? Will that ever work? No, it's about cultivating relationships. And I absolutely firmly believe in the fact that, life is a people business. Life is a people business. And, everything that people are hoping to achieve in life, all their goals, all their targets and things like that they want to achieve in life, they're all people goals. You're missing a person in your life. That's all it is. If you have the right person in your life, you'll be able to hit all your goals. And on the flip side, every problem that you have in your life is a people problem. You're missing a person. If there's a right person in your life, they'll be able to help you solve that problem instantly. Like they'll tell you, hey, this is what you do, or here you can go, or here's a resource. They'll sort it out for you, right? Okay. But you need to have those people in your life. So in my case, I would rather have the people in my life rather than try and, push for a business or an online following or anything like that. That's way more valuable to me, Corey, than just having, a fat bank account.
Yeah, I mean, people can hear it hopefully in your voice that it is 100% true. I mean, if you trust me, I've watched this guy and I can tell you that everything he's saying is very sincere. One of the things that, we haven't talked about it during this whole event, and, Kelly, I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. But when we talk about the approach that you've taken, there's the opposite approach, which we see more than ever now before, which is people approaching you on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever platform you're on, and saying, hey, great to know you now. I love your profile. Wondering, see you have a podcast. How's your podcast going? And if you've been in this world for a while, that's leading to them pitching you to try to sell you on their podcasting services. And my take on that is 99% of the time, whatever they're pitching me on, I already have 8 people who built trusted relationships with me that I would go to before somebody I just met from a hole in the ground. But at the same time, even if it wasn't that way, what does it say to me whenever they don't even want to get to know who I am before asking me that? And my experience as well, and I'm not going to say it's always the case, but my experience as well is when I call them on it or say, it's just not something to look for right now. Okay, thanks. Boom, they're gone out of my life. So they were there to just, I'll be in your network as long as you're going to buy from me. But if you're not, see ya. And that's happening so much. And I've had people where I'm like, I want to help this person learn that this isn't the way to do it. And I'll try to walk them through and say, if you did this, and this is why, if you did this, like, for example, I have a really big network and I'm really big on connecting people. And, if you were to do this with somebody like me, then, I say just somebody like me in terms of somebody who's spending their time trying to impact lives, then you're going to get more from doing this than just your one-off. And all this, and they're like, thanks for the advice. See ya. Like, just don't even care. And so those people probably will never learn. But back to the point here is what I hope is the people listening that want to connect and influence people and make a difference in their lives here is that it's not about pitching. It's not about making a pitch fest. Now, having said that, you can go to a person you built a relationship with. Like I mentioned, JV mentioned Hal Elrod. Now I'm going to reach out to JV and say, hey, I'd love to get him on my show. But I put in a lot of hours building a relationship with JV before I'd ever dare ask that. So I'm not saying you can't go and ask for somebody to make a connection or something for you. Like, so, you said to me, I think early on, if there's anybody else would be a good fit in my show, let me know. There's nothing wrong with that. And we can do that early in the relationship as long as you've given first. But to actually go to somebody and say, hey, nice to be connected with you 8 minutes ago. I'm just wondering if you ever do any work in the side of this and what's been your experience with it. But I love when they ask like one question that's supposed to be acting like they can't give a crap, and then like the next one's right away. Oh, well, have you ever thought about doing this? Here's my link. And we can see that because it's so common now. No matter how good a person is, you usually can see it from a mile away. So I just want to get people to not do that is what my goal is. But I'd love to get your thoughts on that, both Tallal and Kelly. Kelly, maybe I'll ask you first because I know I've been stealing a lot of the thunder here today.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I get that all the time too, where people just instantly go into pitching me about who they are. And, you know, and me being a burn survivor, I get a lot of people pitching me about the new makeup thing that's going to take my scars away and make me beautiful. And what they don't realize is that I have no interest in that. Right? And, or they have the next business venture that they want to pitch me on, and they don't even want to get to really know me. They just want to pitch me on whatever they have. And so, you know, I know that it's all about giving first, right? Getting to know the person first, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. You're so right. I think that when people, you know, try and get out there in the world, I think, you know, they really need to think about their intention. If you're setting the right intention from the get-go, your journey would be in the right direction. If your intention is wrong, your journey will take you somewhere where you really didn't want to end up. So it's kind of like, you know, when you go on a journey and you have your sat nav and you're trying to put in the destination. If you have the right destination in mind, you will get there. You know, it might not go the way you planned, right? You know, it might take a bit longer and you might, you know, hit a few detours, but you will get there because you had the right destination set right from the beginning. So intention, I believe, is everything. Behind everything you do, your intention has to be transparent, clear, authentic, and that's what will ensure your success in the long run because your journey is in the right direction.
So agree. And Tallal, just before we bring things to a close and ask you where we can learn more, just to give another example from that point for people listening in real time, and I won't say his name because again, it's not about, you know, sharing somebody else's business, but there's somebody I know that was doing a book launch, and he wasn't getting the sales that he wanted to get from the launch. Just being careful that I don't give away who it was. And I did this too. I did like a Kickstarter crowdfunding launch, and he wasn't having the numbers he wanted. And I care because I've been down that road before, and I know who he is, and I know he gives to people, and he has a fair sized audience. And but he wasn't getting the numbers he wanted, so I reached out and said, "Hey, you know, I noticed, you know, because he made comments that I could tell that, and I said, you know, it's not my place, but I just want to ask, you know, if you want any help on the launch or what have you." And so I helped him, but also what I did was I went on and ordered his not his highest kit, because there wasn't even a need for me on the highest kit, but I ordered one of his packages on this launch that was more than buying a single copy. Like it was multiple, like, I think 20 copies or something. And he was like, "I can't believe you did that." And I'd never, on his show, like bringing me on his show, we didn't really talk about it before that. And he just sent me the link and said, "Grab your spot here." And I didn't go to him and do that because I wanted to be on his show. But the point is I get to be on a show with thousands of listeners on an episode because of the fact that I gave first. And I basically said, you know, I want to help your launch. And then we also got on 2 calls before the interview, and we had to reschedule the interview because I spent an hour telling him what I did with my launch that worked so well. And so it was more time that we took to make it happen. But what I'm getting at is, imagine if I went to him first and said, "Hey, if you put me on your show, I'll buy a copy of your book." And there's people that do that, right? And so my point to what you're saying, Tallal, is that I think you have to give first, and you have to do it because you care. I really care about his launch. I love books. I love seeing somebody being entrepreneurial and launching a book. I give a crap about his launch, so why wouldn't I want to support it? And people supported me. So even if, you know, I'm giving back to him and he hasn't given me money in the past, who cares? Somebody else supported me to allow me to have my book out. So I just want to give another example. There's lots of ways you can give first without expecting, and it feels good. It feels good to help somebody with their launch. So anyway, just a side note. But Tallal, you know, most important question perhaps, and I know you said you've taken a break, so your answer might be different than some people we ask the question to, but if we wanted to send people your way or people want to connect with you, is there a hub or a certain place you would send people?
Sure. So firstly, obviously, people can go and check out my YouTube channel. It's nothing big, nothing fancy. It's called Hustle is for Life Motivation. Hustle is for Life Motivation. So they can go and actually, you know, check out the stuff there. And I am taking a break at the moment because I'm focusing on the book, but, you know, it's still there. Also, they can actually go onto social. So, you know, for example, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn. Now, from all those platforms, again, I said I'm not big on the whole digital thing. I'm still learning and finding things out. But I am there. So if anybody wants to connect with me, they can just, find me there at Tallal.Gondal. They'll be able to find me. Just type my name in. It will pop up, okay? There's only one Tallal Gondal as far as I know on there. And finally, Corey, I wanted to do something really special for just this event and for you and Kelly. And I just want to, I'm so grateful for you guys having me here and for everybody who joined us online as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my personal email address. I'm going to actually share my personal email address. And for anybody who wants to connect with me, they can email me. But really what I want to encourage people to do is tell me one thing that was their key takeaway. I want to know, what was your key takeaway? What's the one thing that you found was, really valuable that you're going to act on that will help you move forward? So if they actually email me and they say that, they attended the event here today, I will send them the first 2 chapters of my book.
Very, very cool. I love that because it gives people, I love behind the curtain. So, we get a chance to peek behind the curtain of your new book before everybody else does. So I love that. And I appreciate that so much. And I also put your YouTube channel in the comments as well. And something, a lot, if people are wondering, is there lots that, you said it's nothing fancy, but is there a lot of content that I can spend my time with? And I just looked, and it looks like you have roughly 78 interviews during your time that you just did it for the sake of wanting to build connections. You have 78 interviews people can dive into. So yeah, and I feel humbled that I was on twice. I just noticed that looking to share it, I noticed that I was on once about my book and then a separate interview as well. So thank you so much.
No problem. And I really feel that, my YouTube channel, even though it's not that big, I think there's a lot of value there because the quality of the guest there, it's phenomenal. I mean, it blew my mind that I was able to bring on these people on. So I'm not just saying this just to kind of get people to go on my channel. I think there is real, genuine value there. And there's interviews from people from all sorts areas of life. Okay, so they're life coaches, people who are relationship coaches, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are authors, people who are podcasters. There's interviews from all these things. So there's going to be a lot of value for people to go and just check that out. Obviously, if they want to connect with me, that'd be wonderful. And like I said, if they email me, my personal email is atthetopoftheworld@gmail.com. Altogether, lowercase, atthetopoftheworld@gmail.com. That's my personal email. If people want to reach out to me and they just literally mentioned that, they watched the show, with us, they were here and just mentioned Blue Talks, I will send them the first 2 chapters of my book.
I might even send send an email myself to get a copy of 2 chapters. So I just put that in the comments as well, your email address. And this is, like I say, Tallal, I knew it would be. This has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you. I appreciate you. I honor you for coming here and joining us today. And let's call it a to be continued. Of course, I think when the book comes out, I'm more than happy to bring you onto my show, my podcast, and other platforms I can bring you on to help promote the new book, given all that you do for so many.
Thank you, Corey. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Kelly, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And for people in the audience, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate you guys as well. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, please reach out. I'm always available. I always make time for people. And like I said, I just want to connect with the next person. I'm not trying to make millions. I'm not trying to become a, world-class influencer or anything like that. I just want to connect with the next person that's next to me. So, if anybody wants to reach out, I'm here.
Good.
Love it. You're good. You're a good man, my friend. You're doing a lot to help and serve so many people. So keep on doing the great work you're doing. And like I said, let's call it a to be continued.
Good.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Very cool. So happy to have him on here today. And as you can tell, Kelly, very genuine person, very real deal person. And honestly, for early on when I met him, my struggle was what's the agenda? Like I struggled.
Yeah, there's no agenda with him at all. None.
Yeah. And I struggle because we're so used to saying, well, there's something. There's got to be some payoff somewhere. And I couldn't find it with him. And I'm still at that point. Like I can't. So it just seems to be, real deal. Loves connecting people and is a great connector. And it's funny, when I was scrolling down to go grab the link to his YouTube channel, I saw that he has Neal, who is going to be our final guest today. He actually was one of his guests as well. So this is a small world when you're saying, how do I connect with people? I mean, you just go down the list of the people he's interviewed, and half of them have probably been on my podcast, or even some of them have been on our Blue Talks event in the last 3 months or last 6 months. So I mean, everybody's interconnected, but the big thing, as we've been talking about, is you got to give first. I'll go back to the Zig Ziglar thing over and over again this week. I don't know why I'm on the Zig Ziglar thing, but basically I still believe that dig the well before you're thirsty.
Exactly.
People are trying to
message, and I loved how there was no ulterior motive or no attachment to the outcome or the agenda. It was just, let's get to know each other. So I love that.
Absolutely. And having said that, I should mention, when I said Neal's the last guest today, if somebody's been watching the schedule, that might look confusing. We had, and we'll have to call it to be continued. I'll look to bring him on at the February event, but Bruce Van Horn was supposed to be with us today as well. And Bruce sent me a message yesterday that he's basically dealing with a flu. And of course, not only when you have a flu, how you feel, but also your voice. It's not the best time to do interviews. So basically we had to do a reschedule. And so we got rid of our break that we normally have. We'll put Bruce, I'll talk to him. We'll try to get him on in February, but then we brought Neal on to be right after our next guest. So that way we finish early, but we don't have a two-person break between the last speaker. So that's the change in the schedule. If you're wondering and looking, saying, wait a minute, how is Neal the last guest? Because I think Bruce was supposed to be, but we're all covered that way. So that's kind of a little bit of housekeeping. Having said all of that, now it's a perfect time to bring on another giver that I know who has, if there's a competition for great energy, this person's in the running. She's one of my fave people, and I'm going to bring her right onto the screen, Allana Pratt. So exciting to have you here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh, that is so kind. Group hug, everybody. It's so good to see you.
Everyone.
Yeah. I'm missing you. It was great to be together on the Blue Talk stage and pre-COVID and everything. So I'm feeling a little arrived, but thank you for your kind words about my energy. I get so excited when I see you're generous and so alive and so giving to this world, and want to meet you, Kelly. Thank you both for having me.
Great to meet you too, Allana.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And Allana, I'll tell you, I don't know if it's you have a bit of an echo going on, so I don't know. Let me think. I'm trying to hear if it's on my end. Are we playing? We playing in the background as well, maybe? Or no?
No. Am I still echoing right now?
Yeah, it's like. Or can you hear that, Kelly?
A little tiny bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you say a word, it's like then the word says it again. It's not a big thing. I just thought I'd let you know, just in case it was something just on the.
Well, let me see if is that any better? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, just had to press a few more buttons.
I just want to tell you that rather than go fully and then you go, why did you tell me that? Having said that, thank you so much. That was so generous what you said. Having you at the San Diego Blue Talks was fantastic, and getting a chance to interview afterwards for a project that has been delayed because of COVID, but will still be in the works, was amazing as well. And you truly are a generous spirit. And what I love is that, I don't know, the best way I can say it is like, and hopefully this comes out the way I mean it to, but you're like the love hippie. Like you just have huge love. And I think it's a rare thing. So don't ever lose that, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, thank you. It's really interesting you say that. When I first started coaching like intimacy and relationships 20 years ago, I was still so in my head, trying to do it right, trying to look good, trying to even do the right thing, make a difference. I was trying. And then one day I just said, oh, knock it off. Just love people, Allana. Just love people. And as soon as I did that, so much more energy. Like I'm smart. I went like Ivy League, Columbia University. I'm a smart lady, but it's a different wisdom that comes through when I just give myself over for another. It's like I become a facilitator of God, the divine, the universe. And oftentimes people say, what did you just say? And I'm like, I have no idea. It's not in my mind. It was my heart talking. So thank you for recognizing that. And it's so good to be together again.
Awesome. And usually we get people to tell us a little bit about their self and their journey. I feel like some of that will come out during our conversation anyway.
Yeah.
But I have to say too, something I've been sharing that you said at your Blue Talk often, even on this event. And Kelly, you might remember me saying this. Lana is the one that had the quote that I said about stop trying to find the one and instead start becoming the one. and I paraphrase that a bit, but that quote has stuck with me since the day you delivered it on the stage. It hasn't left, and I love that. So I just want to.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my own story. 2 divorces, a long custody battle. It was still that insecure in me, like I'll be complete when I find somebody. And the healing around that is when we become the one, we find the one and keep the one. But becoming the one is like coming home to yourself, not just loving all the accomplishments and the achievements, but loving the parts of us that are stressed out or overwhelmed or anxious or scared or sad. Like, can we love all of ourselves home in our hearts without any resistance? Something quiets inside. We're able to have a complete alignment with the divine. And then from wholeness, from the overflow, we go into personal or professional relationships. So that's the title of my 6th book, Finding the One is BS, and Becoming the One is Brilliant and Beautiful. And it's also the tagline in my dating app and intimacy training, Heartmates. So with Heartmates, we become the one to find the one.
Wow. So, and I wasn't even thinking about your app because you've been telling me about it just via email. We were chatting about it.
Yeah.
So it's right now probably, is it?
Yes, we are launched. It's a trinity. So there's the dating app, there's the online intimacy training, and there's live conscious connection calls every Friday. So people aren't just on a dating app, and as soon as things get a little tough, that first conversation around money or sexuality or religion or just something, a lot of my clients complain, I'm ghosted, I'm ditched. Nobody can sit in the fire, keep their heart open and be there. Where are these people? And I said, I don't know, I'll create it. So I created a community where everybody in the app is also in the 1-year intimacy training, doing the inner work, but they're also showing up, practicing meaningful communication with allies, with friends, with community members, with tribe every single Friday. So we are literally learning how to have those skills that not only help us dating, but help you once you're in a committed relationship and moving forward, so I can lower the divorce rate.
I love that. That's such a great goal. Having said that, the app itself, where's the easiest place to find it? Just so I put it in the comments.
Thank you. I would go to heartmates.app so people can understand the whole trinity of the product. And yes, we are getting final approvals from Apple and Google. It's quite a journey, Corey and Kelly, to launch an app. My Lord, I had no idea. I've invested a lot of time, energy, and money, and now we've got investors coming on board. I've never had those kind of conversations before, so I'm really growing as a businesswoman and really fueled by my commitment to support people, especially now with COVID. People are more isolated, more alone than ever. And from that depleted place, we don't make very good decisions with relationships. We're coming from empty, not from full. So this app is also really supporting people to feel nourished and whole when they go into a relationship at a high vibration to attract a high level partnership.
Wow. It's the app itself. I thought, and again, this is me not asking, but I thought it was a dating app. That's what I thought of. And so now it's cool because it's an app for Shelly and I as well. So I love that.
Well, there is Heartmates for singles and the dating app, and there's Heartmates for couples. And that's my different business model. I really believe dating apps right now are designed to keep us single. They don't teach us conflict resolution. They don't keep us to keep our heart open. They don't heal the wounds from the past. So you might pay an extra $99 and get 10 more wounded hearts to date. And you're going to run into the same problem. So that's why I really believe I'm a category, like a new category of mixing dating apps and personal growth together in one, because I really believe that's what is missing and what will work.
Wow. So now I want to switch gears a little bit. Your YouTube channel is something that's always intrigued me because YouTube is the one that I know I need to be doing more on, and I'm not doing it. And I even signed up for, I don't know if you're familiar with, I'm going to say Sunny D because I can't pronounce her last name. This is Ario, I think, or something, but she has YouTube for Bosses. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but I signed up for it. And basically she's just, how should I some of the best practices. And I used her system and I saw it working. And then I just dropped the ball and stopped doing it. But I see the thing that you've done over the long haul on YouTube. And I want to get there and I admire it. And we had Evan Carmichael, if you're familiar with him, on last time, and he's got like 400 million views on YouTube. It's insane. But here's the thing. I told Kelly this. When you crunch the numbers of how many videos he has, it means he had to do 5 to 6 videos a day, every day for 10 years straight. So somebody else not,
wow.
Yeah. So somebody else
that's an overachiever.
Yeah, well, you can't. I mean, it's hard to compare to that because this guy's obviously a machine, right? But
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is I watch people like him and you that put in the consistent time
Yeah.
and have seen the rewards. And I'm like, I know I know it's my spot, and I know LinkedIn's my spot, and I'm kicking myself, and I'm feeling like 2021 is the year, but I gotta make it a habit, and I gotta get my butt in gear and do it more than 3 weeks. I just gotta keep going at it. But here's the question out of all that: can you tell us a little bit about your experience with YouTube? Because you're what do they call it? Like you have the YouTube? Do you have the plaque?
I'm an influencer.
Yes, you got a plaque or something, right? Didn't you for the
Yeah, you get to a certain amount of subscribers, and then they give you a star. And then you get to the next level. They give you 2 stars or whatever. So,
and you a creator. You're like a YouTube creator, right? You can go.
I am a creator, yeah.
You can go to like a YouTube location if you want, if you're in town, and go into the location where other people can't just walk in. Correct.
Globally, there any YouTube creator studio around the planet, I can go in and use the facilities and bring my crew and create videos. So it's a wonderful honor. So it started off like everything before, like I said before, as soon as I shifted out of my head and into my heart, out of trying to do it right and into loving people, that's when my business shifted, and also when YouTube really started to blow up. So I would share authentically with me and my brand about vulnerability. It's not just that I'm badass at what I do, and I'm very masterful at coaching, but I'm also a hot mess a lot of the time. So I have my own coaches, and I can't do it alone. And so I share about not only what I know and I can inspire people with, but also my vulnerability. And what that's grown over the years is a safety for people to be real with me and to ask me really vulnerable, transparent questions. And so I answer people's questions twice a week on my YouTube channel. And then I air my podcast on my YouTube channel. And people feel so seen, safe, and heard. They're like, you really did answer my question. I'm like, yeah, I care. Like, it's like crazy. I'm actually taking, and my staff gathers questions from all my different social media platforms or my newsletter or what have you, and they put them together in this document. And I just sift through every week, and I sit in my living room, or I sit in the garden, or I sit wherever I sit, and I literally answer real people's questions, heart to heart. So when I look into my camera, my video camera, my phone to do the videos, I'm not like doing it, hi, how are you? Good. Da-da. It's not like this professional guru energy. It's like, hi, Joanne. Hi, John. Like I'm connecting right to their soul, and all that energy pours through, and it's felt. And then I get feedback from other people. I know you were doing the video for Joanne, and I'm Mary in Finland, or you were talking right to me, because it's that same energy thread. It's the oneness that we all are. It's the connection of the difficulties or the challenges we're all facing. So it touches people deeply. And I feel it's a complete privilege to be able to love people like this.
Wow. And the YouTube channel itself, and this is now moving to a bit of a business perspective, but would you say that it has been one of your top providers of clients?
100%. 80% of my leads come from my YouTube channel, or me being on a podcast that's on video, or me being on a summit. 80%. And across the board, just like how you introduced me, there's something about her energy. So it's a feeling. It's, yes, I give whatever good information or good tips, but it's an energy where people feel safe to be themselves with me. And this is the platform through which I can do so the most. So much so that when my dream with my app is to get to a level where it's running itself and it's generating so much income that I can have my own larger YouTube show with my crew, and we go around and we meet customers, or maybe they haven't put their profile up yet and I want to help them, or maybe they got let down and they want to give up and I'm there to support them, or maybe they've met their heartmate and I celebrate them. And so I thought that was going to be later, but with my new investors and moving forward with heartmates, they're like, we want to see on the marketing item, you out there meeting all your clients and customers. I'm like, now I get to do it now. So I'm like, wait, I don't have to wait for my dream, because that's literally not even a job. Like, I love my clients and customers. They are my family, and it's my privilege to get to believe in them and support them.
So now COVID, I mean, this brings up a few questions. You mentioned about going out to meet your clients. Obviously that's a little harder right now, but I mean, maybe there's light at the tunnel where it's going to be soon. But I know you were also traveling for a little while. I'm not sure if you still are or not, but can you talk about how COVID has either impacted your life or business? Because like, again, when we were doing the interview, I know you were in kind of travel mode at that point. So I don't know if that's changed at all yet or not, but yeah, what's life look like? And then of course, COVID, how's that impacted things?
Yeah, thank you. So when COVID hit, I was in Palm Desert, and this is where I have stayed since March. My plan is to move to Nevada. I moved all my corporations to Nevada, so I'll be moving there in the new year. But COVID has actually exploded my business. Marriages are on the rocks and they need support either in, oh my God, we've actually never talked about the money. We've never talked about the sexuality. We've never talked about the religion. We just could, go on Facebook and have an extra glass of wine and just not deal with it. But now that they're quarantined, they have to face each other. So I'm helping a lot more couples. Also, a lot of couples that were just sort of doing the fakey fake relationship, they didn't really want to deal with anything. They're recognizing now their sacred contract is over. And they'd like to consciously uncouple with grace and kindness. So I'm helping couples also in a kind, conscious way, divorce. And then, so that's the couples. And in the singles, it's like, okay, this has made me be with my demons. I need to heal like once and for all from the past. And at the end of the day, what's really important is love and connection and relationships. That's what's actually meaningful. I'm ready to do the work. I've slowed down to what's really essential, and it's time for love. So my business has been better than it's ever been. So I'm really grateful. And yet it's all been on Zoom. It's all been on Zoom. And the amazing capacities I have for facilitation and connection, the safety, OMG, the safety on my group coaching calls and the tribe and how everybody has each other's back. It's weekly. I'm live weekly with them. I do the private calls as well. I have my own coaches as well that I've trained that help me out. So it's not all on my shoulders anymore. But yeah, the community is stronger than ever. The business is more thriving than ever. So I imagine with the Heartmates, first, I will be connecting with people on Zoom. I'll just be maybe calling them up and I'm just like, hey, do you want to talk about something? Let's jump on Zoom together. So it'll be virtual at first. And yet we do have in the line items starting in January to go to LA and to meet a lot of people in that area. And we'll just be COVID safe. We'll just do it. And if people aren't interested or they don't want to take that risk, that's fine. But I believe there's a way to be honoring, safe and cautious, but not overly scared. And to share and to connect with people and to share that on YouTube.
Wow. I mean, it's so amazing. I mean, I'm so stoked to hear that, that things, that the business isn't suffering, because we talked about this week, that it's a weird dynamic right now where you feel almost guilty saying your business is doing well, because I see people coming saying, oh, you shouldn't say that and this, but don't we want people to see hope? That, people are pivoting, things are happening. It's not the end, it's not the end of business forever.
Oh, no. And I love that we are being inspired to pivot. Like that's a great capacity within ourselves, not to be attached to a result or rest on our laurels. It's also a great capacity within a relationship. Oh yeah, my husband loves me. Yeah, my wife loves me. No. You stay alert, stay awake, keep feeding the plant of your relationship. So this idea of pivoting personally or professionally, this is how we stay present and don't go into automatic pilot. So yeah, I'm not ashamed at all to say my business is thriving, or my clients' businesses are thriving. They're pivoting. So instead of one guy got like fired right out of the gate, and I'm like, congratulations. And he's like, what? I'm like, this is amazing. You've been saying you want to be an author for how long? Okay. And you've got a 6-year runway that you've saved money for. Dude, get your ass in gear. Let's do this. And if it wasn't for the coaching and the community, he would have just, from fear, gone back to some other job and been, burnt out like he was before. So other clients they're doing very well. All my real estate clients, they're booming. We're just a thriving, happy community. and we also have real pain. A lot of my clients' parents are dying right now. There's a lot of them. Some COVID related, some not. So most of my clients are 30s, 40s, 50s. And so some of the parents are dying. So we're helping people grieve that they can't go to their parents' bedside. They can't go to their parents' funerals. And so I literally stand in as the energy of their parent, and we close our eyes and I say, talk first person to me so you can be heard. And they say, Dad, I miss you, or Mom, I miss you. And I hold that space for them, and everyone else on the group call holds space. And it is so richly, deeply moving, because we're all one. Ultimately, science says, and we all know that we're all one. So I can really help them heal in a profound way during this time. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I've been asking everybody about the COVID thing because it's the elephant in the room. And I believe you need to talk about the elephant in the room because people watching need that hope that some people are thriving, that some people that lost their job have found another way, because then if they've lost their job, it gives them hope. And then there's also synergistic connections, like your client that is decided to work on his book. You probably see up in Kelly's thing there. She's an Amazon bestseller strategist. So who knows? Maybe there's some connection there. I was going to say, so Palm Desert, this is a side note, but I'm always curious, places I haven't been especially, but is that where Coachella takes place or close to that?
Yes, okay. Yes. I'm about 20 minutes from Coachella that way and 30 minutes to the airport, Palm Springs Airport this way, and beautiful mountains and hiking. It was not fun in the summer. I will be honest with you, Corey and Kelly. 120. I was literally doing these calls in my underwear. With an ice pack under my tush. I'm not lying. It was so hot. There was air conditioning, but it wasn't working very well. So yeah.
I mean, it's like here. I'm on an island, and where because you're from
Canada. Yeah, BC. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you know where PEI is. So like BC, I'm on an island, a small one, and where my office is at right now, I'm like looking the waterfront. So there's boats and all that, but that's the summer. That's 8 months a year, pretty much, like spring, summer, and somewhat fall. But same thing, I say you don't want to come here 4 months a year, and it's kind of wild. The opposite scenario, you're where it's like the summer is the scary time because it's and we don't get to hear that in Canada very often, as you know. But
we don't
get many.
I enjoyed last summer up on the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia. That was really, really lovely. Yeah. And just to close the loop on what we were saying before about the abundance that can still happen during COVID, or the difficult times with death and family and parents, etc. I've also just finished I called it a Blissful Black Friday giveaway. And I literally gave away 7 memberships to my Heartmates for Couples, or Heartmates for the dating app and intimacy training, because there are people that still are too scared to ask for help, or skeptical about love, or have difficulty with money. So I still try to balance and pay it forward. And then my request to them with the membership was, now you pay it forward too, and share every single every single month on my social media platforms. What are you learning? What are your wins? What are your insights? What are you breaking down and through, so that we can all remember to pay it forward, that we're all in this together.
Wow. I want to ask you now to shift gears again another step, because the 5 days we've been working on here, we're on the final day now, but we've been focusing on writing, speaking, podcasting, influence, and then conversations. So these are the coffee conversations. You even took a sip of your coffee a second ago.
I love my
coffee. I don't know what's in there, but having said that, you also have a podcast.
Yes.
So maybe we can talk about that for a minute or two. What's been your podcasting experience? Was it a good decision to launch a podcast? Because we have a lot of people that want to know, should they launch a podcast? I've been throwing Kelly under the bus because I know she's thinking about it. So I'll say that Kelly's thinking about podcasts. What has been your experience? Was it a good move? Would you recommend it to others? Just love to get your thoughts on podcasting.
Yeah, I made the mistake early in my career of doing what everybody else was successful at, but that's their genius, their life purpose, their mission, vision, purpose, right? Not necessarily mine. And so I tried a lot of different things that didn't work out, not because it wasn't a good avenue, but it wasn't my avenue. So when I answer this about podcasting, I am all about intimate conversations with my clients. That's the name of my podcast, Intimate Conversations. It's my superpower. People tell me things they've never told others. People tell me things they've never told themselves. That has to do with my superpower of being non-judgmental and an amazing listener, and hearing behind the words to go even deeper. So if that's something you love and it shows your genius and your talents to your ideal clients, then do a podcast. But if you're just doing it because you're told you should, it's not going to have the energy, the joy, the fun, nor are you going to attract really great conversations. So do you like to talk? Then do it. I've probably interviewed over 800 people in my life. I started way back when with Blog Talk Radio, and then did some webisodes for a while, and then moved into podcasting. So it's always been my happy place. And I've always, when I do my little morning affirmations, I am the sexy spiritual Barbara Walters. I've always loved this medium to communicate with people. I choose to be the person that when something horrible happens in the media, and the media is going after somebody, I like to go, okay, well, I understand that, but what's the gift? What's the lesson? What's right about this? How can we turn the very worst into the very best? I choose to be that safe interviewer that somebody quite famous comes to tell the story in another way. That's not about blaming and emasculating these people, but really going, hey, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all here to grow together. So I love having deep conversations with my guests. So if that's one of the viewers or listeners' happy place as well, then do a podcast. So you're being shown in your genius zone. Also, in terms of the beginning and the end, I like to really feature my guests. It's not about me, it's about my guests. When I feature their products, I feature their books or what have you. But I'd be sure at the beginning and the end just to have an intro and outro that does share maybe a link to one of my free gifts or my free offers, so that the show is still bookended with this is who I am and what I do, so that the whole show can be about honoring and featuring the guest. And so that really creates a balance. And then the last thing I'll say is I didn't know when I did this, it would grow my list as much as it did, because every single episode I mail for them, they mail for me. It's sort of like a prolonged summit. And so you will slowly but surely keep new, fresh leads coming and get out into their worlds, because it's a reciprocal arrangement. And you can do that by building your platform on Instagram. You can do IGTV lives and say, hey, now would you like to come to my podcast? Or a YouTube influencer, and you do videos for each other, and then, hey, come on to my podcast. So it's another wonderful way to scratch each other's back and grow each other's communities.
Well, so a couple of things I want to unpack there. One is the Blog Talk thing, because interestingly enough, that's how I get started. My first episode ever was aired on Blog Talk Radio, and I was on Blog Talk Radio for, I feel like it was maybe 2.5 years. I had a lot of success with Blog Talk, but the challenge back then, I don't even know if it's still the case, because I haven't been on there in a while, is you couldn't actually stream it onto other services like iTunes.
Right.
And I recognized iTunes was like, bang, they just came in and they exploded. And I was like, I don't want to not be there. And that's what made me ultimately switch. And it's interesting. I'm into my third season now. I don't mean third season of the show, third season or chapter in podcasting, because I just moved over to C-Suite Network. Just like it hasn't even fully happened yet. But it's like I went from Blog Talk, which was having somebody else helping me to some degree, to then Libsyn, which is like self-hosting completely, to now back to C-Suite, where they do a lot of marketing to bring people to your show. So we've had that similarity of Blog Talk Radio. So when some people, I'm sure, say Blog Talk Radio, or some people say Blog Talk Radio, people are like, well, what's Blog Talk Radio? I fully know, because I was fully immersed in it. And I feel like they were like the first big one in online radio, because it's so many big names started on Blog Talk. So anyway, I just wanted to, I guess, sort of give them a shout out, because they are still going. They're still doing stuff. The other thing, though, I want to ask you, Allana, when you mentioned about having the podcast and saying a little bit at the front and a little bit at the end for your, for yourself, because I think that should be there. And I think that's sometimes where podcasters, we drop the ball, is not doing that. But how much do you think it helps having multiple pieces to your ecosystem to keep people in the world of Allana? Like, some people might discover you in the YouTube show, but maybe they love podcasts. Some people might discover you in the podcast, but like, I like video really more. So do you also let them know you have those other elements in your ecosystem, and how big a part does that play in keeping people in those various places?
Yes, absolutely. I would still say when I do my stats, my KPIs, I see that most people come to me through video. So I'd be sure that I'm on not just, Instagram, but Instagram Live, or the little stories that you can tell, etc. And with YouTube, a lot of people see me from video, but that's where most of actually my male clients come from, that are more visual. But the female clients, for some reason, like to hear me more when they're dropping the kids off here, or driving to work here, or doing what have you. So I'm learning more about how my ideal clients like to receive and be inspired by my information. So I do it that way. And my other female clients, I'm part of different groups, organizations, where I show up and I give content. You were saying before I came on the show about giving before we receive. So I'm always up for doing presentations and workshops and trainings for different organizations with my ideal clients, so they get to know me from a generous point of view. And if there's a resonance, I say, yes, here's the YouTube, here's the podcast, here's my free quiz on my website. There's so many different ways I can support people. I even do live calls every 2 weeks about the Heartmates.app, like the dating app. So I have all these different ways people can connect with me. And I think it's important to let people know there's various options. And it's a, like you said, you can't do YouTube more than 3 weeks at a time. I've literally hired 3 full-time employees from the Philippines, and they're amazing. And they each have their own jobs, and their jobs are to make sure all those engines keep happening. And they just tell me, we need more content. Okay. So I sit down and I do the video, I write, I do the audio guided meditation, I put it out, and then they execute it on a regular basis, because I need someone to hold me accountable and guide me. I'm more like the visionary and the talent, but without support, without a team, don't feel bad if you aren't so consistent. Get help, get support. The return on investment of supporting another individual to thrive in their life and them to be able to help you, be willing to have this collaborative, cooperative way of moving forward, and also be willing to ask for help from your other colleagues. Like, I love when I see an email come through of one of my colleagues with a great offer, I throw it in my newsletter. And I give them, some featured energy. So when it comes around when I need to ask for help, I've earned the right to ask for that help with integrity.
Love that. And yeah, earned the right to ask for that help. That summarizes everything I was talking about in the last interview. So Allana, Tallal, who was on last, has a question for you. And then Kelly, I've been hogging a lot of the time here. I get passionate with interviews and then I forget. So I'm like, Kelly, I want to let you jump in and ask questions you might have for Allana as well. But I'm going to put Tallal's question on the screen here. So love your energy, Allana. Would love to know how you tease out the personal insights from your clients.
What do we mean by personal insights from my clients? Tell me more, Tallal.
Yeah, so I'm wondering that too. So
you're wondering that too? Okay, I don't know exactly what that means.
So Tallal,
how do I coach, like on a coaching basis or on a prospecting call basis?
I think what he's asking is, how is it that you're able to get people to open up to you? I'm kind of like you. People tell me their secret. Like, people tell me things they don't tell their wife or their husband or whatever. I know that people have cheated on other people, and then yeah. So I think that's what he's kind of asking, is how is it that you're able to connect with people to get them to be that personal with you?
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you to all for this question. It's very important. So within as without, every time. It's science. So if I haven't come to terms with my own shadows, then I'm going to be all perfect, trying to look good. And then you're going to pick up on that energy of, oh, don't tell anything to her, because, she's not going to be safe to tell that to. But because I've always got, like, I have 3 coaches right now, 4 if you include my money financing support guy. So I'm facing shadows all the time. I'm taking responsibility for my own wounds and healing them all the time. I'm integrating my the past into my superpower in the present. So I don't have anything to be ashamed of. And if I do the work. We never get there, right? And so because I don't judge myself, because I'm willing to not justify and give you all the reasons and look perfect, I'm willing to be a hot mess if I'm a hot mess. Some of my coaching calls with my clients, I'm crying. Yeah, or I'm mad or something. I'm just real, but I'm also very masterful at being able to integrate these wounds. So it's literally till all my beingness where people sense I'm safe. I don't interrupt. I don't fix. I say, wow, tell me more. And I don't get all weird when they say something strange. I go, got it. I got it. And then I empathize. Wow, that must be really so-and-so. Tell me more. So they feel seen, safe, honored. And that's how I teach in my programs. That's what real intimacy is. That's what vulnerability is. That's what transparency is. That's what this raw, honest way of being with others is. If we can't be that way with ourselves first, there's no hope in hell we're ever going to be like that with our clients, our lovers, our children, our clients, anybody. So I have crafted my whole life as intimate conversations on the inside. Hell, I mean, I even have intimate conversations with God and the goddess, or whatever you want to call the field or the universe. Sometimes I'm mad. Why did you? And I have a good little temper tantrum. But I'm always raw and intimately communicating in every single direction, even with my body. As I'm getting older, I'm past 50 now. I'm like, what's the hair growing out of the strange place for? Like, what's going on there? Or I have intimate conversations with my money. Money is on my dream team. Thank you, money. Thank you for supporting me to give more to humanity. Thank you for always showing up for me. Like, I'm literally communicating that vulnerably everywhere. I hope that helped. So
yeah. And he said it. It's exactly what Kelly said. So Kelly, you hit the nail on the head. So Kelly, segue to you. We got about 3 to 5 minutes left. So Kelly, I want to, if you have a burning question that you've had that I've been hogging the time from, I'd like to have you give you an opportunity as well.
No, I just love the whole message that you have because, I've been single for 10 years and, being a single mom and all this stuff in and out of the dating world. And, I even wrote a book about the 5 different types of men on the dating sites and how to spot them. Because I was finding that there were certain patterns that were happening, right? And so it was really upsetting me that a lot of women were getting, sucked in by men who, who were just playing games with them and stuff. And same with men were getting sucked in by women who were just playing games with them. And I thought, this is really important information for people to know. And if they know this information, then they won't waste so much time on stuff that doesn't serve them. Right? It's all about helping. How can we help people so that, they eventually have the life that they want to have or the relationship they want. And, I like that you were talking about how you're willing to be vulnerable and say the things and take accountability for your action. And that's something that I've always believed in too. Like, I believe I had a really, rocky relationship with my ex-husband. And it was, I call it was a toxic marriage because we were toxic for each other. Right. And I'm willing to admit that I cheated, that I lied, that I wasn't who I should be. But just because I was that in my marriage doesn't mean that that's how I'm going to be in the future.
Can I spar with you, Kelly?
Sure.
So appreciate your bravery and vulnerability to share that and to acknowledge that just because I was this way then doesn't mean I'm that way now. And we end up always going back to that same triggered behavior unless we do the deeper inner work from that last relationship to heal the place that needed to cheat or needed to lie, to integrate that inside into integrity so that indeed we are different in our next relationship. The patterns of those 5 different men or the 5 different women, etc., to me is very helpful for people dealing with the same issue, but it's almost like a sprinkle on top of the ice cream cone of crap. Like, what was the underlying inner dynamic going on that kept attracting those 5 people? It's one thing to not go there anymore, but that's mind. The heart, the soul will be able to no longer even operate in that vibrational reality when the inner wound is healed. Like, I was very insecure, like a damsel in distress in my first marriage. And so if I didn't heal that, I would keep attracting the same guy until I was 100. Or the second relationship where I closed my heart because my mom was dying. And I thought, oh no, a man is a plan. A man and a baby is a plan. I don't have to deal with my wound. My closed heart attracted a closed heart. So instead of, I encourage, instead of being resistant or aware and see the energy is pushing away of who we don't want to hurt us, underneath it all, what we're saying is, I don't want to be hurt again. So that means we need to heal first so that we have awareness. And our awareness is actually our superpower, because those people that use us, when we're aware, we can see them, smell them, taste them instantly, and they don't have anything to do with us. So we don't even need to worry about those 5 kinds of guys anymore because we don't even attract them. And we invite noble badasses. We invite masculine grandeur, or as a man, you invite the radiant goddess to soften and open. It's who we're being deep inside. That's what I think is efficient. It's brave. It takes humility and bravery, though, to do that level of deep work. But the deep work in my intimacy training, and then a group of people all willing to do that deeper inner transparent work, and the practice of coming together on Fridays and not having, oh my God, are you the one? I got to be perfect. Like, no, we're just a community. We're just practicing deep, intimate, real communication. I mean, the breakthroughs that even occur on those Friday calls set us up when we do get on a date to go, you can smell it. And you can invite the best in someone, or you don't even have to ever get hurt like that again because you've done the inner work. So I invite you into Heartmates, Kelly. Come into our community, because this is what it's really going to take. Become the one to find the one, to keep the one. Yeah.
That's right. No, I'd love to join. That'd be fun.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, that's a good
about
segue. Oh, sorry, Kelly.
No, I'm all about that. I think that we need to do the work.
Yeah.
Right?
And I want you to have a man who's done the work too, who appreciates that you have and respects you that you have and honors you that you have. Like that feels good in a relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, Allana, this is a great segue. As we bring things to a close, there's never enough time. I'm going to call it, with your permission, another to be continued. I do that often because I feel like the conversation's never going to fully end. So, Allana, the last and most important question, perhaps, is how can people learn more? We told them about the app. We told them about your YouTube channel. We didn't say how they could find it, though. Same with your podcast. Where would you normally send people? Is there a hub where they know how to connect with Allana and, like Kelly, join Heartmates, and like myself and Shelly, which will probably join Heartmates this weekend?
Well, Heartmates.app is for the singles and dating and intimacy training. My main website, allanapratt.com, my name, has under coaching, has the Heartmates for couples. Also, YouTube is allanapratt.com/watch. Go find Intimate Conversations on iTunes, and also the video version is on my YouTube channel on the Intimate Conversations playlist. And then lastly, I can just see my cat's, what's right there? My cat's right there. That's Muffin. She was with us this time. That's awesome. And then the last thing, there's also a quiz that really helps people on my main site, allanapratt.com, an intimacy blind spot assessment quiz. So a lot of us, me included, like we're smart, we do the work, we show up, we're personal growth junkies, but nobody can see their blind spots, including me. And so this quiz really helps you go, oh, that's why I keep doing that pattern, personally, professionally, monetarily, physically, whatever it is. So I also encourage people to take that complimentary quiz to help them see what's going on so they can take their power back and have an even more successful life. So those are all the ways to reach me. And please stay in Corey's world, these amazing Blue Talks. Please learn more about Kelly, her amazing bestseller strategies. And I just love that we can all support one another in flourishing. Thank you.
So, Allana, the viewers now got to see what I was talking about with your energy. I appreciate you. I honor you. You are really, you are the real deal. And I say that with sincerity, that you're one of my fave people in the world. We have to try to make more time, whether it's to catch up on a Zoom call or me bring you back on the podcast. We got to do that sometime soon. We have a member site coming up soon. I'll be announcing in the new year. We should bring you on that. I want to make sure we get the message out of all the great work you're doing, because I believe your energy is helping so many people.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for seeing me. And thank you for all these years just being my brother, my Canadian brother. And I'm glad to meet another sister, Kelly. So yeah, thanks for having me. And it's my pleasure to contribute to all the different communities you have. It would be an honor.
Awesome, my friend. Well, we'll let you run. And your cat is stretching there, so we'll let you run and hang out with your cat. And thank you once again for joining us today. Thank you for bringing your energy. And we'll wave the flag for all the great things you're doing and spread the word. So thank you so much, Allana.
Thank you so much. Huge love to all of you. Mwah, mwah.
Bye. So I'm going to bring on our next guest right away. Without further ado, our final guest for the day, last but not least, Neal Phalora. Neal, so excited to have you here today. I want to maximize your time. So Neal, let's jump right in. And can you tell us, we always do this, I should mention, to get people to tell us a little bit about themselves rather than me reading a bio, just so people get to know who they are before we kick things off, and then we'll dive deeper. So Neal, can you welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Corey. So glad to be here. And thank you. Nice to meet you too, Kelly. So my name is Neal Phalora. I am sort of a lifelong student of life and business. And my journey really started, I would say, when I was 5 years old. And I really found myself always fitting in everywhere and nowhere, being that person where I was a go-to person for strategy or relationships through high school and so forth. And so while I had a sort of scientific bend, and that's kind of what my dad and family was about, I was always very artistic and empathic and creative. And that led me into a place where I jumped out of corporate America and started a few businesses in e-commerce and med spa and all of that. But my biggest role in all of my life has always been helping other people, whether it was moving in and out of relationships or losing weight or changing careers. And so my biggest challenge came when when what I had stored empathically throughout the years was manifesting in my body. And that put me in a chronic illness situation where I was into bed 3 to 5 hours a day with 95 more pounds and really just not functional at all. I had so much anxiety, I just couldn't even leave the house. I had 120 some symptoms. And I took the 10 plus years of life coaching and combined it with the last 6 years of really studying the energy centers and the different centers of the mind, including the brain. And that's how I came to be the brain warrior. And so my clientele, what I do for them is they're high achievers who want to make their internal worlds. I teach them how to make their internal world simple so that their external world they can master that easily. So that's just briefly my story. Corey, you know me, so you know more than that, but we want to keep it succinct today. So
no, I so appreciate that. And I feel one of the things that you have, Neal, that not necessarily everybody does is you've been there. I mean, some people speak from the point of view helping people, but they've learned it through a course or a book or what have you. But the struggle that took place for you. And I think that probably helps you connect with people that are also struggling. Like, it's one thing to become a high level influencer, but if the health's not there, for instance, then nothing else matters anyway. And it's sad that it takes some people a lot of times to learn, a lot of times too often or too long to learn that. They learn it after their health is gone. And it's harder to get it back than it is to keep it in the first place. So I love that you're transparent about it, but I also love that you've lived that, because I think that's super crucial. So Neal, I guess, can you tell us then, when you talk about that journey and sort of, coming back from what you went through, can you tell us what that looked like at first? I mean, I don't know if it's been a while probably, but I don't know if you can put yourself right back in there, but was it like one of these things that it was 1 second at a time, one step at a time?
Yeah, well, you were talking about what the journey was like sort of in a whole. Is that what you're asking me, Corey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So, things happen over time. And I think one of the things that I try to open up for clients often when we're doing, whether it's in the masterminds or one-on-one coaching, is our intuitive self knows that things are going wrong and things are not right, that it shows up in your health, in your body language, in your decisions, in the way in which you're reacting to life instead of creating life. And as I look back and see it, I can see that what was happening over time is that I was becoming more and more isolated. So my brain, I'm as much of an artistic as I am scientific guy, and we can show that the brain, when we start to go into these stressed out states, you don't have to be diseased to have this happen. Your brain starts to compartmentalize, and I noticed my life being compartmentalized in that way. And I noticed that I was having less interactions, isolating more, tunneling inside more. And the more that happened, the more that my world and possibilities shrank. So I was living it in my body, but not also getting really frustrated about why aren't people showing up? Hey, I'm putting my message out there, but it's not showing up for other people. Well, the whole time was my energetics and my mind was off. So I could see both the biology, the 3D and the 5D narrowing at the same time as I look back.
Wow. And so, I mean, the hardest part, I think, often is knowing that's happening, but not knowing what to do about it. And so I guess, and I want to dive into the work that you do, but so I guess for making that switch, like to flip the switch, I know what's happening now. I have to come back out of this. How hard was that? Like, how was that daunting at that point, at least?
There's nothing that I have done that is harder than this. Not med school, not my corporate career, anything. Because, it's what I say to clients often. It's like, if you're a fish in water, and I'll leave out the expletive, how the blank do you know that you're in water, right? And so to change ourselves, we have to get beyond ourselves. And I love what Allana was saying about being. What I often say to people is like, what we have is we have the subjective self or the inner critic, and we're wearing all these layers of emotion and trauma. And to be able to get to the intuitive self, most people say, I don't know how to get into my intuition or to listen to my gut. first of all, it's not always in your gut, but you have to start stripping away the layers of emotion so that you can get back to the objective self, so that you can start downloading and understanding information. And I had those points in this where I was so, and this is what happens, and this is why most people don't change until there's trauma, because you get so much trauma and you get to a zero margin event in your life, and you wake up and for the first time you see you, and you, whatever you see, you're like, wow, I didn't even realize I'm this bad, or things are this, you see you for the first time. And then it's from that place that you can start sampling the objective self. And I had some of those moments where I was just like, you know what, if I went ahead and just moved on to the next place that we go, maybe that's better than what I'm doing right now. I didn't really want to do that, but that's how I felt, right? And it's in that I just had this lightning bolt, and I'm like, I saw something about somebody healing themselves through the use of their brain, and something just told me, I not something, you know, I know what it is. Source told me that to investigate this, and that's how this whole world opened up for me, because I just wouldn't quit.
Well, and I'll tell you why I asked that question too, Neal, just to put some context on it for everybody else too, is I think it's Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who wrote something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, but the person that created the mess can't change the mess until they change who they were when they created the mess. And I know that's a riddle, but you know, if you're still the same person you were when you, whatever the mess is, and that could be a business, like if you're a person that ran the business in the ground, unless you change from that person who ran the business in the ground, you can't actually fix it. And so I often, I don't know why, but when I heard his quote, my immediate thought went to mental illness, for example, because mental illness is the person who's in this situation trying to fix the situation. It's like, it seems like a riddle with an enigma. Like you're the person that's saying, I know this is happening to me, but I can't fix it. But it's also happening to you while you're trying to fix it.
Yes, and it's such an amazing point you're making, Corey. And that's where one of my soapbox issues is all these mythologies of adulthood that keep us separate. Tribally, they're passed down. But one of the things I think that's happening in the world today, without getting into all that, is that we're being pushed back into tribes and being pushed back into understanding that we're connective and reflective. And the only way to see you and to get beyond the subconscious body, like when you're watching a movie and you lose the body, you lose their subconscious mind at that point, is to have reflection points. You know, you and I have had talks. I've gotten, if anybody here who hasn't met Corey's one of the most giving guys on the planet. You got a phone call with him, he's going to give you any resource anywhere. But he took time and he spoke into me certain things I still remember to this day. But unless you have those kinds of people to give you that objective evidence to sit and talk and speak into you, it's so hard to do it on your own. Yes.
Wow. So, well, thank you. First of all, that's so generous of you to say that. And I don't want to leave Kelly out here. So Kelly, before I jump in a different direction, I want to get your thoughts on this. And, you know, I'm sure you have your own thoughts around this idea. So maybe let you give your thoughts and maybe any questions you have for Neal as well.
Well, I second what Neal said, because, you know, Corey, you truly are one of the most generous, giving people that I know. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to work with you, because I know that you always put the other person first. You always do. You know, even when we were doing our book launch for the Blue Talks book, it was all about what do you need? And it was never about getting recognition for Corey. So, you know, thank you, Corey, for being so giving that way, because that's what makes people want to work with you.
Be one of the hard things.
Yes.
But so Kelly, did you have any questions for Neal before we jump into a different direction around that area, or any thoughts?
No, I love what he's saying. And, you know, I can understand when you're going through a situation, it's really awesome that you have lived through it, because you can speak from experience. It's just like I had one person come and talk to me and say, can you come speak to our group of, you know, alcoholics, because we want to learn how to quit drinking, and maybe you can teach us because you know about perseverance. And I'm like, no, I can't talk to that. That would be like me asking you to come and speak about what it's like to have a skin graft. You know, when you're a burn survivor, you wouldn't be able to do it, right? I wouldn't be able to serve you well enough to do that. And I really believe that the people who speak from experience have the experience.
Yeah, you know, I'll add in something. Oh, sorry, Kelly. Didn't mean to interject.
No. Well, when you've got the experience, you can make a bigger impact. I mean, there's nothing worse than someone that learns from a book and then says, okay, I'm now going to go and teach an alcoholic how to quit drinking. But they haven't experienced it, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that one, because my girlfriend, which she's open about, so I know I can be open about it. She puts it right on her Facebook, but she's an addict. I mean, like, I struggle with the term of former addict or addict, just like alcoholic or former alcoholic, because most people that I know that are in recovery will say they're always an alcoholic. You know, they're a recovering alcoholic. So I struggle with saying she's a former addict, but she's been clean or sober for 6 years now. But she's the first one to say that she would struggle if she was going to see a counselor about addiction who went through, let's say, and became a psychologist, but never had an addiction. Because she said she needs to be able to relate to that person. If they don't truly know, it's one thing to say, I understand where you're coming from because I learned it in a book, versus I actually lived it. I was living on the streets at one point because I lost my home. I think every day of the week, or almost every day of the week, as a former addict, you're going to resonate more with the person that lived on the street because of their addiction than somebody who went to a university and got a degree. Whether that's right or wrong, so I agree with both of you. I just want to add that.
Oh my gosh, Corey, you just so intuitively, like, I love where you're going with this. And I'll just say the small thing, because I know you wanted to go in a different direction. But one of the things that I often talk to people, and I actually was given had a chance to speak to some college students about this. And I said, one of the things that we don't realize is that we think we're in control when 95% of how we're going to react in any situation is programmed in the subconscious, right? So we think about this addict, and I even think about it, like, even in my recovery, I was addicted. I had been ill so long, I was addicted to this idea of being ill. My body and my cells and my brain were entrained emotionally with this, right? So every day you wake up practicing being you, and all the things that you're used to, the guilt and people and food and emotions and stresses, that's like an addict, and you need the hits of those every day so that your mind and your brain can remember. And when you step out of that, that's when we feel like we're in our uncomfortable zone. And that's why people neurochemically often snap back after a weekend seminar or whatever else. You know, you go get the rah, but you don't have the long-term care to keep you stretching out, right? So and our brain is made in a certain way that it reproduces patterns, so that addictive behavior is not just to addicts or people who have mental illnesses, to all of us who are trying to change a behavior.
So how important then is it? Because now you triggered another question for me, because I shared this openly on. I mean, I'm an open book for large part. I've shared openly that I battled hypochondria for 4 years, generalized anxiety for 2 of those 4 years. For those that don't know, the super quick hypochondria to me is, I always think of that movie, Jason Bateman, was it called The Switch, where he was, him and Jennifer Aniston were friends, and then he switched the sperm, and all of a sudden it was his own, because he got drunk and knocked out the other sperm, and it ended up that it was his son that she had without knowing it. And Jason Bateman's character had hypochondria, and he was saying to, he said something about hypochondria, and the kid said to him, well, what's that? And he said, well, every time I hear about a disease, I start developing the symptoms. And the kid said, that's what I have. And I always think of that, to me, that's what I had. Like, what I had was, I read about Michael J. Fox. I still remember the day it started, having Parkinson's at a young age, whenever I thought it wasn't even possible. Read the whole article, which I shouldn't have. Read all the symptoms, and then boom, I had those symptoms. And then what happened, to your point, this is why I bring it up, Neal, is I got conditioned to think that was my life, to the point where when I would go see doctors and they would say, no, you don't, we've tested you for everything, boom, now I got MS. Like, it was like my body was addicted to having something. So I would literally go online and say, well, if it's not Parkinson's, what is it? And then I would read the new thing I was about to have, because all I had to do was read the symptoms, and my body, even if it was something I didn't know about before, my body instantly could have all the symptoms. But it's amazing how in my mind, I can convince myself, well, even though the doctor said you got a clean bill of health, he was wrong, misdiagnosed. And for about 2 years, I often said I probably have my own coffee mug in medical centers, because I was there so often. But it's funny, I never thought about that, Neal, but at that time, I was completely addicted to that life. Now, having said that, here's what I want to ask you about. What changed for me? So the big question, I'm sure anybody who has anxiety or is a hypochondriac, when they hear me say that, wants to know is, what changed? How did you come back out of that? And I would love to tell you it was years and years and years of this or that. But for me, when I discovered my purpose, my why, all of a sudden, everything changed, because I believe that you can't have fully negative and fully positive in your body at the same time equally. So all of a sudden, I was a very negative person. I discovered my passion, and all of a sudden, this light was coming in my body, and it felt like it was extinguishing the dark. But my question of all this is, for me, what I look at, it was like a pattern interrupt. Like you said about patterns, it was a pattern interrupt. Like, I was used to this all along, and now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, my body has this feeling of I'm alive for the first time in years, maybe first time ever, and everything changed. So my question out of all of what I just said, since you know the mind side of it, is what does it usually take? Because we see it often where people have the worst moment of their life and that's why they stop drinking. Or, I mean, it seems like there's always, not always, but often some sort of pattern interrupt or the worst moment ever or the biggest thing ever that shakes us out of it. And it doesn't have to be that way, I'm sure. So what can we do to interrupt it earlier? I know that's a massive question.
It is a massive question, and it's a micro question all at the same time, because really the fundamental issue is that, and what you're experiencing, what I would call in a biological terms is limbic system dysfunction. It's our emotional brain. And unfortunately, we live in a society where fight or flight is turned on so often that we have the gas and the pedal, the gas and the brake going at the same time. When you live in that state for extended periods of time, we can show in the brain, there's a place called the hippocampus, and it starts to become so saturated with all the stress hormones, it starts to deteriorate. And that's where your brain then, and it happens with people, and I'm not trying to inflate any of our balloons here, but it happens more so with people who are really creative or really intelligent, because then we start thinking, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And we know that we can think ourselves into any reality we want to, right? If our thoughts can make us sick, they can also make us well. So to answer your question is that what's gonna get you there is being able to, a couple things. One is being able to think and feel greater than you are, so that it's like you have a separation between what's going on in your biology and what's going on in your higher self, right? You've decided that you're going to, in your case, you came up with a why. In other people's cases, it might be that they regularly hold on to memories or emotions or times in their life, or they might actively visualize those things and dose their own brain with these amazing neurochemicals that starts to create a new bias in your brain. You can think about it like, well, I have a sad spot in my brain and I'm going to create a happy spot. I'm going to focus on that more. And so those are ways to start to change the landscape of what you're focusing on. But what I say to people fundamentally is, it's not your biology. It's not you, it's your biology. And the problem is that as these bags of bones and flesh, we think that we are our thoughts, whatever we think and feel, and whatever's going on in our body. But when you can start to separate those two by being the compassionate observer, saying, even though I feel anxiety, I know I have techniques like what else is true, asking yourself what is true. I know that this is not real right now. And when you start to get a separation between those two, then you start to get power over it, and you can move it into its own corner where it might be throwing a tantrum. At the same time, you're going, yep, not doing that today. You can keep doing what you're doing over here, but I got a life and I'm headed in this direction. And it's tough. I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say truer words have never been said. It's tough and it's not easy. We always say, it's simple, but it's not easy. I mean,
right.
I totally get it, because on the surface, for somebody else that isn't going through that right at the time, you're like, just shake it off. Like the Taylor Swift song, shake it off. But it's not that easy when you're in it. And that's why it goes back to that thing I said about, I feel the hardest thing is the fact that you're in it at the time. And you're the person that's struggling with it. And also, unless you work with somebody else, you're the person trying to fix it.
Yes.
It's like the least qualified person trying to fix the problem right now, because you're the person that's stuck in the problem. And
yeah.
I mean, again, we can become the most qualified person, but at the time when we're struggling with it, we're probably the least qualified.
Agreed. Completely agreed.
So I said I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about the coaching work that you do and the coaching side of things. My big question right away, Neal, is, do you feel, because we hear this often, that every good coach needs a coach? And I mean, I think also it'd be probably hypocritical if somebody's a coach and doesn't have a coach, because you're like, well, don't you believe in what you're teaching? But we just had Allana on, and I think she said, Kelly, did she say she has 3 coaches? And then she said maybe 4 if you include a financial coach. And so my experience is, if we went through this whole week, I would say 90% of our guests, who I feel are high-level presenters and speakers and coaches and wellness practitioners, have coaches. So my first question is, why do we need a coach, and do we need a coach?
So yeah, I have a coach, and then I have friends that are close to me that are that are in the coaching, type worlds, and I bounce stuff off of them, or we call each other when we're down in our own stuff. I even did that this week, for somebody who helps me out, who I help her out as well. Why do you need a coach? We need a coach because we're two things. One is, it goes back to my earlier statement. There's just no way to be objective about your own stuff. Allana said it as well too. She's like, it's so easy to teach. Most of what I end up saying, most of the talks that I've written, the book that I'm writing, when I read it, it's from my higher self to me. It's all things that I need to hear. But after I read them, I'm like, wow, I could really, and I get objective about, like, I listen to my talks, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this advice, right? And so, but we don't have the objective way to get that. And so the only way to be reflective is that, I mentioned it earlier, but we have these specialized neurons in our brain called mirror neurons, and we can look at somebody else and feel like we're having their experience. And unless you have somebody who's 2 to 3 standard deviations somewhere in that mix, gone through things before you have, then you're going to keep circling the drain of doing the same things over and over again, but feel like you're producing the same results. And that's why people have the same money drama, relationship drama, job drama, all of those things, because they just have no one to help unstuck them, to be eloquent about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in high performers or coaches having coaches. And I would have to say, so this is the reason I even asked that question, is I have to say, for a lot of my early years, I didn't get it. And I didn't have a coach, and I didn't understand that. And I thought, and it was always this thing of, well, I can't afford to invest my money in somebody else right now. I'm still building my business and all this, and never cluing in. And it's one of those things where it's always hardest when you're the person not seeing it, but never cluing in that if I would have brought that coach on earlier, I would have been able to afford the coach earlier. Like it's a catch-22. It's like how we talk to the speakers. When we're building our speaking business, we need the video more than ever when we can't afford it. We need the business card more than ever when we can't afford it. That's the irony. Then when we don't need it all, because we're getting booked without even having it, we have all the stuff that we did, that we needed back then. So it's the same with a coach. Like, I needed a coach early on, but the reason I didn't get a coach was because I didn't believe in it, probably. It was more so because I kept telling myself I couldn't afford to have a coach. And so I totally agree with everything you're saying. And as somebody who has a high performance coach now, and also as a couple other people, I have a mastermind where I feel like I have 4, I'm going to call it like side coaches and stuff like that. I know now the difference it's made in my career and how my trajectory, in fact, through COVID, I would say, as I was pivoting, one of the biggest ways that I was able to pivot, and how I was able to pivot so quickly, had a lot to do with the fact that I had coaches and I had people on my team that could guide me. It's so much easier when you have a quote-unquote advisory board or a team, whatever way they are in your life, that you can go to. Like you said, friends that are also coaches. And I make the case to people, if you don't have a coach in some aspect of your life, you need to look into it, because it's not just one of these things that somebody's trying to offer coaching for the person that they can pull money out of. It really is a thing that can elevate you a lot quicker than almost anything else. And you have to ask yourself too, why does Tony Robbins have a coach? Why does Jack Canfield have a coach? And the irony is, Tony Robbins' coach might not even be as successful as Tony. There's not many people that have been as successful as Tony, but he can. Whoever Tony's working with, he wouldn't have picked him unless he could pull stuff out of Tony and get stuff out of Tony that Tony can't do on his own. And I'm sure, I don't think he has to help Tony with motivation, but I'm sure there's certain things that he can see that Tony can't because he's too close to him. So I think if you look at it objectively, there's a reason why all these people who we don't think would even need a coach is willing to spend a lot of money on their coaches.
For sure. And the things that they can pull out, the opportunities that they can open up, it just accelerates your life in a certain way. And so many, I think I come up against that. I'm free. Like you, I'm an open book. I get people, and I think we talk, and I want to make sure that they can do the work and they're willing to do it, and that they're going to like my style, and they have to understand what the commitments are. It's a big deal, because I don't want to just coach somebody chalantly and not get results, right? Where do they want to go? And then people start coming up with their objections. And primarily what I've noticed is that if people really believed if you really believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that how you thought and how you felt every day was bringing things into your life, would you ever miss a day working on yourself or curating that? We would never miss a day eating, or many of us even watching TV or doing some of the things we like. But if we really believe that fundamentally, but the challenge is that we're mostly married to the cursed hows, that the hows outside of us is that if I just somehow, and this is a more of a victim sort of survival, I've just got to keep corralling outside resources instead of thriving from the bounty that lives within me. Because if I can just figure out how to control external environment, I will then master that. I was just coaching somebody the other day, and his big aha is he's got these bunch of people working for him. He's got his agency and all that. I started talking to him, and I heard him say something, and he's like, when I can finally get this thing, and they said, then I will be, and then I said, say that again. I said, how often do you say that to yourself? I said, then imagine your subconscious saying that to yourself hundreds, thousands of times a day. I said, what are you training yourself to do? That you're only going to be happy until you get to a point in life. Well, if people's primary operating system is caca happens and you die, most of us are operating out of fear and scarcity. And that's why 90% of people who are millionaires still do not feel wealthy, is because they're, whatever belief system you have, whatever pressure you apply to it, whether it's good or bad, is going to show you the issues in that belief system. And they're still operating in fear and scarcity, and they're more fear and more scarce than they ever were before they had the money, right? Money's not the issue. It's the issue of the operating system, the belief system.
I love that you said that. I have a follow-up question, but I love what you said there about, 99% of the people that are millionaires, why are they not happy? You can make the argument too with fame, right? How come there's people that have fame, all the things we were always told you should want to have, that aren't happy? I don't know the numbers, but we know there's a percentage. And in fact, I would say there's a large percentage of entertainers and celebrity that aren't fulfilled and happy. And, we see it in some of their actions. And so the same thing, right? If the answer was always just get the money and the fame, everything comes. Yeah, but the proof is that it doesn't happen. But I'll say the interesting part too, Neal, is I've done trainings with people, and I brought that up after interviewing 6,000 plus people, a lot of them millionaires, and I've said that it wasn't the money that made the person happy. And almost everybody in their head will either say out loud or they'll say some form of, "Well, give me the money and let me try." Like, people don't believe it because it's almost like I have to learn it myself. But even then, they'll say, "Yeah, well, that's what they're telling us. That's just what they're saying." I don't think whenever we hear the stories of the stuff that they do and the cry out for help that some people have, and I don't think they're just telling us, I'm really happy though, I'm just doing that for fun. I think we can look at some of the examples and see that not every person with money is happy. So that I think is a fallacy or a myth that we need to change on its own. And we talked earlier with Tallal about what if the journey is the destination? For some people, I think it's the fact that they need to start enjoying the journey and not just be focused on when I get the $1 million. But to switch gears, and you can still comment on that if you want, Neal, I just wanted to add that in. But my follow-up question to that is around experience. So, we see in basketball, for instance, there's coaches that are world-class NBA trophy-winning coaches that have never played basketball. And we see that happen all the time. So then when you're selecting a coach, it's easy sometimes for people that maybe aren't the right coach to say, well, you don't have to have done what you've done to be your coach. And then we have other people say, if I want to succeed in something, I want them to have done it. Like Kelly's an Amazon bestseller strategist. So a lot of people, I would think, would ask Kelly about her past books and to see if she's actually done it. Or if I'm helping people land a TEDx talk, most people wouldn't hire me if I hadn't landed a TEDx talk. So my question on that, Neal, is and I know it's a pretty big question, is what are your thoughts around, does the person or should they have the experience of what you're trying to achieve? Or can they be someone who hasn't experienced it but knows how to coach you how to get it?
So I love this question. That's why I always love being on stuff with you. You ask great questions. And so I actually have an answer for this. We'll see what you guys think. So for me, the answer is yes in both ways. So I'll explain. Is that, like, I of course, Kelly, I know nothing about Kelly's coaching, but sure. I think that if you're looking for tactics and strategy and so forth, yes, you want to see that somebody has actually done something. Like if you're wanting to be an Amazon bestseller, or you're wanting to do TEDx speeches and so forth. I also believe, I ran into a guy, I'm part of this PR networking group out of New York. He sold millions of dollars on Amazon, and we started talking. And he started really getting interested in what I was. He's like, this brain warrior stuff. And I started telling him about mentality. And he goes, I need to have you talk to my people. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, because when I coach entirely almost mindset. He goes, I almost never coach anything about actually selling. He said, I can tell you within 3 to 4 coaching sessions if this person is pliable and they're going to be able to let go of something, or if they're never going to make it. And he goes, but I need somebody, a mindset person. So, and myself, I've coached an Olympic hopeful who was a triathlete. I've been coached an NFL person. I helped in a race car driver, and they had phenomenal results afterwards. But their sticking points were mindset stuff. I didn't know about that. I went and I just digested, and I asked them a lot of questions about, okay, when you go into this turn, what are you thinking? What are the things that you come up against? And then I would start to download, start to understand the questions and ask them questions about their triggers, and I was able to help them. So I think when you're assessing a coach, you have to kind of decide, do you need more of the mindset work, or are you looking for tactics or strategy? Now, some people can bring in both, right? But there's no mindset person that's going to know all the disciplines that are out there, right? So that's kind of my answer to that question. I think you really have to assess, and when asking the person, ask them, what is your emphasis? How much mindset stuff do you do? And be your own Joe, or ask your friends, like, do you think I'm really stuck in my own mindset, or is it tactics that I need right now? And go to somebody who's a little bit more tactical in their coaching.
So you asked, I'm going to put this out there and get your guys' thoughts on it. Well, I have to say, Neal, I've asked that question to people off and on throughout the years, and that answer is the one that's been provided me the most clarity around that question ever. The perspective of, is it strategy you're looking for, or is it a mindset thing? That's huge. Like the difference between the two, because you hit the nail head so well, in the sense that if you're wanting to land a TEDx talk, that's strategy. If you're wanting to get an Amazon bestseller, that's strategy. And and I don't know why it popped into my head, but I think about Tony Robbins. He's a great example. I mentioned him earlier. But Tony Robbins has coached Andre Agassi, to win tennis tournaments. He's not right. To my knowledge, Tony Robbins has never played tennis, or at least not at that level. He's worked with golf pros, and helped them get to the next level, and actors. And to my knowledge, he's been in a couple of movies, but not as an actor. And so again, there's an example of somebody who's coaching at a high level and achieving extraordinary results with extraordinary high achievers without ever having their discipline. So I think that's the proof that it can be done. But I love how you distinguish between the two.
And then both are needed, right? Because some people say, oh, it's all mindset and you don't need any strategy. No, this is the way I have it, is that once you get your mindset right, then find somebody who's really, really good at the strategy, because you're going to spend all your time spinning your wheels trying to figure out. Go find somebody and hire them. Even if it costs a lot, you'll save so much more time, like a Kelly, who can get you there 100,000 times quicker than you trying to figure it out on your own. So totally worth it on both ends. You just need to know what you're looking for.
And I think there's an argument could be made for, if both the coaches you're looking at are brilliant in each of those separate subsets, if you will, then maybe you have two coaches. Maybe you have the coach on the mindset, maybe the coach on the strategy. Kelly, as we're winding down, Neal and Kelly, we have about roughly 5 minutes or less left. I want to respect your time, Neal. I told you you'd be done at the top of the hour. But Kelly, did you have some questions for Neal before we start winding down? I want to make sure I get you back in if necessary.
I'm just enjoying the conversation, and it just seemed like the questions I want to ask you asked, so it's all good. But I love how you explained that, the strategy and the mindset, because it's very true. I know that there's some book coaches out there that are all about the mindset, and yet I'm all about the strategy. I am like, you want to get it done, come to me. I'll help you get it done, right? Like, I've got a girl I'm working with right now. Her book's going to be done in like 3 weeks, right? So, but she's willing to do the work, right? So, I've got another girl that another person referred to me, and she's like, no, that's too big of a step to have a book coach. I need baby steps. And I'm like, what do you mean baby steps? Like, that to me is a baby step, getting a coach, right? But she's like, no. And I'm thinking, okay, well then I'm not the right person for you to work with, because you've got some mindset issues, right? you've got mindset issues that are stopping you from moving forward. And while I can help you on a certain level with that, I am more of the strategy person, right? And I want to work with people who want to get it done and, you know, and are ready to get it done, right?
So maybe that person you should connect them with Neal. help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
Out of the mud. That's awesome, Kelly. And Neal, I just want to, so as we bring things to a close, I mean, the most important question perhaps of the day, and I know we barely scratched the surface. We could go in so many directions.
Oh my goodness.
Well, and like I say to everybody I bring on, because a lot of the people I bring on, I've had a conversation with before, whether just a one-on-one or on my show or what have you. So I'll call it to be continued, and we'll look to bring you on to whether it's my podcast or a member site we have coming up or another one of these. But in the interim, maybe the most important question for those that have spent 40 minutes roughly with Neal, where would you normally send people as a hub, or if they want to learn more about your coaching or working with you, or what that looks like?
So just visit my Instagram at @the Brain Warrior is the best place to go. I'm paying somebody in the process of revising my website, but I still think my Instagram or my Facebook, which is my last name, Phalora. You can find me, Neal Phalora. But visit me on Instagram, and we can start dialoguing more there if you love to see people out there.
Awesome stuff. Well, Neal, Phalora, this has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be. Again, I want to honor your time, so I thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today. And again, my friend, it's just simply a to be continued, not the end of the conversation.
Yes, Corey. I'm always appreciative of you, my friend, and everything that you're doing in the world. Thank you, my friend.
Awesome stuff. So appreciate you, Neal.
Bye, Kelly. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Great to meet
you. So very cool stuff. Kelly, this is the end of our 5 days. I was going to say 4 for some reason. And I don't know about you, but my tank is full. Like I'm overflowing with both knowledge, but also positive energy. One of the things that I think hopefully people can take away, and I feel like this is part of what we're doing too. I mean, we focused at this time around a little bit more mindset than we have in the past, like this 5 days. But one of the things I hope people can take away from what we're talking about is, and maybe that became a theme, is that even though COVID is a thing right now, and it is one of the biggest elephants in the room, most of the people we're interviewing and talking to are still having success. They're still finding a way. And my hope is that gives other people hope and lets them have faith that goodness can be around the corner. And when I talk about that, I mean, I'm talking both sides, but because we're talking a lot about business and the professional side, I mean, on the business side, if you have a business, which a lot of our people watching will be solopreneurs, I hope that you can see that that people are still making things happen. I also see that most of the people we're talking to, it involved some sort of pivot, but it's still happening. And so, I hope people are seeing that and realizing that people are still doing big things. We started these conversations. This is our 6th event, if I include my 3 Flip Your Script events. This is our 6th event since June. And even looking at that, the common thread is look how positive all these people are bringing on are during a time such as a pandemic. I mean, if you look at the common, you look at all the interviews, of course you could say, well, people aren't going to share the negatives necessarily, but you'd be able to read between the lines if their energy is negative or if they're struggling. And most of these people are having a lot of success personally and professionally. And again, I hope it just shows people what's possible. That's sort of been my takeaway from this week.
Well, absolutely. And what we have to do is something that I read in one of Rachel Hollis's books, and it was, don't compare your middle. No, don't compare your beginning with my middle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the big problem, is a lot of time we expect that we're going to instantly be, that person that has the 23 million views or whatever that is. And so, and we feel like if we haven't achieved that, we're not successful. And I still remember one of my coaches saying to me, because my Goalcast video has right now 9.9 million views. And so she was saying to me, like, oh my God, like it's got 9 million views. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not 10. And she's like, what? So what number does it have to get to before you feel like you're a success or that you've impacted people? Right? Like 9.9, you're not happy with that? And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm happy with that. But I think that's the problem, where a lot of times when you're a perfectionist or you're an overachiever, you feel like you can never achieve it. right? Or what you do is you raise the bar, right? As soon as you've hit 9, then you go, oh, well, it's got to get to 10.
Absolutely. And one of the things we talked about in that regard this week, and and just because we say it doesn't mean it's easy to still shed that, but we talked this week about, would you cross the street, to speak to 50 people? Whenever we're talking, well, how come there's not more than 50 people listening to my podcast? And obviously, in your case, you're talking 9.9 million. That's a much bigger number. But in general, though, whatever that number is, even if it was one person, you would probably spend 5 minutes at an event to speak to them. So why are we not super stoked that one person took the time out of their life to learn from us or get impacted by us? But I say all that, I know it doesn't make it easier. We still are human. But yeah, I mean, that was another big takeaway for me as well, is the fact that we are making a difference, and the journey, should be, for me, the journey is what it's all about now. I wasn't always there, but now if I can enjoy the journey, then the destination will matter, but not as much. So like to your point, the 9.9 million, there was a journey getting there. And, during that journey, I'm sure you had messages and people saying, hey, thank you for making the impact. Thanks for making the difference in my life. Your video, I love it. All that kind of stuff. It's not easy, but I think it's all about those moments.
Absolutely. And, and it's the speaking gig that I did get from it. I got to speak in Kentucky, and, it was awesome being able to go there and impact those people. And you're right. I love it about the journey. But I think what's also important is sometimes we don't feel like we should celebrate until we've hit that big success. And so one of the things that I like to share with people is that we need to celebrate the little successes too. Right? It's not just always about celebrating that big, massive success that you've had or that big, massive goal that you reach. It's about celebrating everything that it took on that journey to get there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the things that I recommend to people, in fact, it's in the last book, is when it comes to expanding your comfort zone. People always say to me, what's your strategy? And I mean, I have a TEDx talk built around that, so people can just watch that talk if they want to know what my full strategy is. But one aspect of it is when you're trying to expand your comfort zone, which again, well, let's call it expanding the comfort zone, the big destination, but the journey is baby steps to expand it. And I always say, like, you need to break it down into smaller steps. You don't go, okay, I want to speak on a TEDx stage or Goldcast stage tomorrow. I'm not going to do anything before that. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to just jump to that step. Most people can't. Like when I did stand-up comedy, most people wouldn't say the step to stand-up comedy is just going, okay, I should try stand-up tonight, and reading an article and going to try and stand-up. Usually most people, because it's such a big fear, would have to try other things. So what I'll say to people, chunk it down and say, what are the baby steps I could take to get there? So could be going and taking a comic out for lunch. Could be watching HBO comedy specials and writing down what you like about it. Could be reading a book like The Comedy Bible by Judy Carter. And you write down, say, 5 of those baby steps. And what happens is you take each of those baby steps, and when you take the final step, it's nowhere near as big as it used to be. But the reason I bring all this up is what you just said, Kelly. In between every one of those, I say the biggest thing, though, is once you take that baby step and achieve it, you need to reward yourself.
Exactly.
If it's ice cream that you don't normally eat, you need to taste that ice cream to go, I want more of this. Not just the ice cream, but I want more of having a nice reward. As humans, we like the reward. So if you can set up rewards for every time you achieve a baby milestone, then when you get to the big milestone, you'll already be there. You already come that far. And I also believe you should have a really big payoff for the big milestone. You should have a really big, here's what I'm going to do if I hit this. But yeah, to your point, I think we need to celebrate those mini steps, those baby steps.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, of course, the Blue Talks book, because the second series is out, right? The second edition. So this is the first one that we did, and it's a bestseller. And it's, 3 months now? It's been in the top 100?
Yeah, absolutely.
3 months or 4 months? I can never remember. But yeah, so the second edition is out. And so we're promoting that one right now because we want to help to get that book out there. And there's like 32 other authors that have written their stories that are in the book. And so, yeah. So, Corey, please put the link in there so that people can pre-order the book, because we definitely want to get it out.
Yeah, so I just put it in, and people can see it up there, bluetalksbook.com. And also, I just saw a comment here with Teresa. She said, thank you to both of you, or thank you to you both. And I want to say thank you for joining us, Teresa, just in case she's here now. I'm going to leave any second. So I wanted to acknowledge that. But yeah, so the book itself, I put it in the comments. If you're watching this in the replay, we'd love for you to grab a copy. The book, I mean, I've often said the idea, and I heard you say it yesterday to describe it to Tony, is like if Chicken Soup for the Soul and TEDx got together and had a baby. That's what Blue Talks is. So if you're looking for inspirational stories that also have an idea that could change the world, to me, this is your book. And you're also supporting 30-some co-authors who are on their first journey in some cases of having a best-selling book. So it's cool to be involved in, I think, and it's a win-win all the way through. So if you want to grab the book, that'd be awesome. If you want to know more about Blue Talks, bluetalks.com. If you want to know more about how to become involved in Blue Talks, whether that's being on our podcast, being in the book, being on this virtual event, being on one of our stages, just reach out to me and I can tell you a little bit more about that. And then I just, for me, I just solely want to thank you guys for sharing and being here, helping us make some magic happen, hopefully impact some lives. And know that the next go round is February, the week of February 8th. So we got a nice break in between, Kelly. But the week of February 8th, we're coming back. And I can't tell you, there's a few names I can share with you that are going to be here next time around. One of them is going to be John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire. So if you guys don't know John yet, you're in for a treat. He launched a daily podcast years ago, which has become probably one of the most successful podcasts, daily business podcasts by a non-celebrity when he launched it, to the point where I think he gets close to 2 million listeners a month now for a podcast. It's amazing the journey they've had, him and Kate. And we had Kate Erickson on last time around. Kate's his partner. And so John is joining us. And top of my mind, the other one that came to my mind right away is Harry Paul. Harry Pauls is the co-author of the Fish book, which sold, I think, 5 million copies. If you guys are familiar with the Fish Pike Farm in Seattle, where they throw the fish across the room, and it's considered one of the icons about how to deliver customer experiences. And they wrote a book about it and did a video about it, which was at one point the best-selling business DVD for companies, and companies bought it at the time. I think it was like $1,500 they had to pay, and it was like a licensing fee, so you could throw it to all your employees. And at one point, it was the number one selling for units sold. So you can imagine it's impacted and reached a lot of people. So it's impacted a lot of lives, reached a lot of people. So he's going to be talking about the Fish book and principles and his experience there. Of course, we'll have him on the author day. And I'm trying to remember who else, but we have some really big guests coming up. I'm trying to see if I can find the list here in front of me really quick. I'm not sure if I will. Kelly, anything you want to add before we say our goodbyes and I look up and see if I can find another name or two from next time?
No, well, I just, really excited that this is now the third time we've done it, and it's been, successful every single time we do it. And I loved how deep the conversations went this time. It just felt like there was a lot more really deep, high level insights that the speakers gave. And so I think that was really important and really cool to hear.
No, I agree completely. It definitely went deeper. And I think that'll probably continue to happen each time. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice probably now that I'm here at the end of the last day. But Woody Woodrow, Kelly, were you on when Woody was around last time?
Yes, I was.
So Woody, we had him on last time. But if you remember, we had he had this weird halo effect or something was going on. He was on somebody else's computer. So yeah. I reached out to Woody about bringing him back on. And so he's all in next time. Rob Garcia, who I think you know Rob, right? Robert Garcia. He's the media guy.
Yes, I know Robert. Yeah,
the warrior strategist, I think is his title. He's going to be joining us. He's really big on the media side. I have to look this up. I'm going to say a name and then I'm going to take it back in case he hasn't confirmed, but I think he is. Mark Sanborn, who wrote The Fred Factor, I think is confirmed.
Oh, excellent. Mark Sanborn. I've got his book. Love it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant book. One of my faves. And so I think he's on. And Bruce Van Horn, who was supposed to be on today, but I mentioned why he couldn't make it. I reached out to him, so hopefully he'll be back on next time. So you can see, we're months away, and I just listed, I think, 4 out of about 12 speakers who are already lined up out of maybe 18 total. So we almost have the lineup. We're moving along really quickly this time. So we're going to have some really cool speakers for you next time around. I have some surprises planned for some really big name speakers that I've been reaching out to too. And join us next time. February 8th. Check out the new Blue Talks book, as we said below. Check out Blue Talks at bluetalks.com. Kelly, I'm going to hand it over to you to finalize things. Did you want to share your website for people if they want to learn how they can connect with you and learn more as well?
Oh, sure. So actually, I'm going to be doing my next 5-day challenge on how to get your book started. So we just set the date yesterday it's going to be January 18th to the 21st. It's a free challenge. So feel free to sign up for that. We don't have the link for that yet, but what you can do is go to 7stepsauthor.com, and that's where you can get the free blueprint on the 7 steps that it takes to publish a book. And you can also book a breakthrough call with me on that. So if you know you want to be an author and you want to know what the steps are and you want to be a best-selling author, I highly recommend that you book a call, because my fees are going up drastically. My coach is making me up my fees. So, I'm working on my mindset around all that, because I have a fee in mind that I work with, and he's like, no way, under my watch, you are not charging those fees. Your fees are going way up. So, anyway, yeah.
2021 is the year of Kelly, but if you want to get in before the year of Kelly hits its peak, then now's the time.
Yeah. So anybody that books a call with me in 2020, you will still get 2020 fees. But yeah. So anyway, so it's going to be cool to see what's happening for 2021. 2020 has been actually a really good year for me. And so, but also I think I'm impacting people on a deeper level than I did before. I never really got much into the coaching, but now that I'm really coaching people to be authors and get their books out there and get their messages out there, that's why I also believe it's been more of a banner year for me. So,
and I have to say, I'm seeing it on the outside looking in, that people are definitely listening, because I've been noticing there's some Blue Talks viewers that are like, Kelly, I need to reach out to you. And I know in passing, you and I've chatted, there's been some Blue Talk speakers and stuff too that are reaching out because they want to do their own book, not just have a chapter in a book. And not that that's a bad thing, but they want to have their own book now. And so I see it's happening. And these people are jumping on now whenever they can still get the 2020 rates. So yeah, I mean, obviously I encourage people, if you can make it work, save money. If you can make it work now, save money.
And I have payment plans. So
and what's the website again, Kelly? I was just starting to type it in, and then
7stepsauthor.com.
7stepsauthor.com.
And that's where people can get the blueprint. And the blueprint is the 7 steps it takes to become an author. And then there's a link so you can book a free discovery call with me. And then we can get on the phone and just talk about what your dreams are and what your goals are, what you want to achieve. And if we're a good fit to work together, great. If we're not, that's okay. I'll pass you on to somebody who might be a better fit for you. So, yeah.
Love it, Kelly. Well, thank you so much. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I so appreciate you, and thanks for being here. And this is the first time you were here for parts of all 5 days, and most of all 5 days. So thank you, because that's a big commitment. I appreciate it, and it makes a difference for me as well. It gives me breaks and stuff that I wouldn't normally have. So I so appreciate you. I honor you, and I see big things in 2021 for you as well, even though I'm already seeing the big things that happened in 2020. So thanks for being a light for other people and lighting the way for future authors, because every one of those people that gets a book out is impacting lives, and you're a part of that. So thanks for being you, and thanks for joining us on this journey.
And thank you. You truly are an incredible person, and you're one of my favorite people in the world because of how much you like to give and share and help other people. And so I thank you, because, I've had other coaches who haven't been as giving or as open as you are. And you're always sharing with people, and, you never take credit. And this is one of the things that I found, is that you never take credit for it. You just so humbly giving. And I love that about you. So thank you. Thank you for being so.
Thank you so much, and I'll stand by that. The credit itself is to me, the credit is in the reward of seeing somebody's life changed for the better. So, but thank you so much. I so appreciate that. It's so humbling, and thank you everybody for tuning in. You guys, I always say it, but you give me a purpose. I'm sure Kelly could say the same. That by doing this, you give us a purpose, and also allow us to chat with so many really uber cool and super cool people that are changing lives on a daily basis. Hopefully you got something that can change your life or change the way you do something starting tomorrow during this past week. And we'll be back in February. I have a lot of cool plans for the February event that is going to even take us to the next level. So make sure to tune in then, but you'll have plenty of notice and know all about it before that. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us. And we will see you next time.
You bet.